All right. Let's get going here. Let's get started. Make sure everybody can hear me. We're running a little bit late because of the rain. Once again, we had to make sure that we're not going to have the roof cave in. That'd be horrible. But it'd be funny to become that guy, I guess. Everybody probably know you as the guy whose roof caved in on you. The roof is on fire. Except in this case, it's on water. How's everybody doing? Did y'all enjoy last night's show? Was everybody pleased? As the chat fills up, then we can call the people we got to call and put them on the show. This water's good. Oh yeah, it's good stuff. It's more watery than water. Like regular water. Does anyone know the name of the guy that they did a 5-hour live feed? What are you talking about? Feed me, Seymour. Tell me, give me more. Let me know what's happening. I don't know what you're talking about. Last night was awesome. That's awesome. Good. Check it out. We're going to do a giveaway for that too. I have the people's names right here of the giveaways, so we can congratulate all of them. I can break it down. Tell a little story straight out the box from PRT category. All right, let's get to the $10 and up Patreon. I made an announcement the other day, so the Patreon people will know what I'm talking about. And like I said, the chat room is not filled up yet, but it's unfortunate. We got a late start, but the rain was bad, so here we go. Well, not bad. I mean, but it is what it is. So here we go with the Patreon people. If you are a $10 and up Patreon person who's been doing it for over 3 months, and I can pretty much look and see who it is that's done that, then I'm going to send you something. Now, you got to give me your information through Facebook. That's the only way you can do it. So you're going to have to probably break down, if you're not on the Facebook, you're going to have to break down and go to Facebook Messenger. Send me a message through Facebook Messenger, because if you do it through email, it might get there's I got a lot of emails, dude. And so when you're going through 30, 40, just, whatever, it can be tedious. So if you send me the messenger, I can keep better track of it. Or the best way to do it is to go through email and messenger. So that would probably be the best way to get that done. So if I were you, I would just if you've been doing it for 3 months or more, and you're a Patreon person, then yeah, I want to send you something. I want to give you something, at least a T-shirt, something. So let's get this going here. Also, if anybody's interested in the PRT hats that we've been doing the giveaways with, I've had a couple people tell me that they expressed interest in the black hat that I wore on Facebook with the white logo. If you would like one of those, a hat like that, let me know. Okay. So, let's see how much enthusiasm there is for the black and white hats, and if we want a black and white hat, because a lot of people don't really want the color, they don't want the flash, they don't want whatever it is, Me personally, I like it. I like the black and white. I think it's really cool. Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com. That's the email address, Josh Turner at prtpodcast.com, and Josh Turner is me. And PRT Podcast is the show. prtpodcast.com is the website for the show. And, of course, this is the live stream. This is a YouTube exclusive. You don't get this if you're just listening to us on Spotify or Stitcher or any of those other So yes, I hear you. The Jewish community. It says, L. David, what's up, Wolf? David in San Antonio, Texas here, prepping for all the leaks this rain is going to bring us overnight here in the Jewish Community Center I work maintenance at. Awesome show last night. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of leaks, mine included. Talked to another guy in this building who's having problems with some leaks. So there's some things going on there. Somebody said, what's going on with Roger? How's he doing? Roger has COVID. I don't know if I told you guys that, but he has COVID. So that sucks. You know, I hate that that's what's going on with him. Let me move this chair. Let me put this chair up a little bit here. There we go. That's a little bit too high. Some would say you can never be too high. Those people are called drug addicts, and they need help. It's a joke my friend used to say all the time. And he OD'd, unfortunately. But actually, he lived. So, I mean, he overdosed and he made it. But he stopped doing what he was doing. Folks, that's something I wanted to bring up, actually. Not joking about, but when you're an addict, okay, it doesn't go away. You're always going to be an addict. And the first part to that is that you have to admit to yourself that you're an addict and you need help. There are people in my life that are very close to me and some that are just my friends, but they are addicts and they'll tell you, it's like an illness. It doesn't go away. And I'm not saying that alcoholism or illnesses, because I don't really believe that. It's a mental maybe. But I believe that there are people in this world that they just have addictive personalities, and some of them are my really good friends. I've had to watch struggle. So if you know someone like that in your life, it can be a really difficult thing to have to deal with. And I've had to deal with it with multiple people in my life, and including alcohol. I have a very, very, very close friend who's an alcoholic, and it's just a tough thing. It's hard. So if say prayer tonight for everybody who's struggling with those problems, because the world is different for them than it is for you and I. Yes, they made their own problems and such. I know, I get it. But I have a cousin who I care about very dearly, and he's got drug and alcohol problems. Everybody has been told my brother is a recoverer, and he's been doing really well to get to stop. And I'm proud of him for that, and I love him very dearly, and I want him to be around. And I had to help him to take control of his life. And it's one of those things where you have to be patient. Now, you can't just give all of yourself away and then let somebody take all your energy. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, it is something that it's the gym that we go to and that I actually box at with Anthony, where he trains, where we train. We had there's recovering addicts that work there. The guy that owns it is a recovering addict, and he does a lot, tries to help people in the community, and spread the word of awareness for that. It's called Black Sheep Boxing. It's a pretty good place with a good program, and I think they do good things for people. They try to help people. But anyways, somebody said doing sober October. I can't say that. I had 2 beers earlier this month. I'm not a drinker per se, but I got peer pressured into it. And you're going like, really? Peer pressure? Yes, absolutely was peer pressure. Was not interested in drinking, but I did anyway. And it was just like, well, it didn't really do much for me, and I don't really have much use for it. So not even much of a social drinker anymore. One of the things I was going to tell you too, I am doing stand up on Wednesdays. I'm going to be doing that tomorrow night. I rehearsed my routine in front of a bunch of friends earlier today, and I won't say a bunch, the handful, just to see if they thought it would land, and they said it was good. So hopefully tomorrow I'll be in the comedy club doing it tomorrow night. I was supposed to do it last week, and I was just too tired last Wednesday, and I got in there late. Somebody said, "What are you, an alcoholic?" No. What's your problem? Are you a comedian? Yes, I am. Absolutely. I make jokes about a lot of things. You know, sitting there joking around, having a good time. This guy thought I was just drunk as heck. Like, no, I'm not. You know, I hang out in the bar because it's my friend's place, and I'm, you know, so he thought I was in there just drinking all the time, telling jokes. And I was like, no, I just like to tell jokes and laugh, and, you know, so I'm going to be up there tomorrow night doing it. I put together some comedy, and I thought, why not? Some of it's actually true stuff, so it's easy to put together something funny when it's actually real. And then you could all you can do is laugh at it. I mean, what are you gonna do? Kick rocks? You know, things happen. Where are my moderators at? I just see Scorp. Let's see, James Estrada. I guess Ryan's gonna be late to the party as usual. I'll tell you guys a little something about last night with Ken and Lyle and Barton. If you guys have any questions, you can ask me on here on the Q&A. But I'll tell you something about last night. Everybody was tired. Everybody had a long day, and we still did it. Lyle had to drive across town and, you know, Fort Worth, wherever, you know, up by Fort Worth with his daughter to go, and, you know, he had to go, and he has kids, you know, and he had to be up there as quick as he could, you know. So he got there on time, you know, and that was a good thing that we all made it, you know. And Ken was tired, and I know Barton was tired, and everybody's tired. Barton works a job, you know, all day, so yeah, he was tired. I see Keith Van Rensselaer in the chat. Now that brings up something I wanted to tell you before we go any further. Keith is a friend of mine, and I'm going to post this link. I posted it once in PRT, and I'm going to post it in the prayer group. It's he's trying to raise money for Jade. His daughter passed away on September 25th, 2021, which just happened. And, yeah, you can go and look on there. He wants to raise awareness, and he's trying to start a fund for, to help end sex trafficking. That's what he wants to do. So that's what that is. And if you want to go and you want to donate or help out, he wants to raise awareness for that, and he's trying to start a nonprofit organization. So, an impromptu truth. Are we going to get voice acting from you? Well, I do it all the time. Oh, you missed it, I guess, the other day, and I was right there on Facebook. The Stalker Aussie. Did you read that? Did I show you the comments on there? Didn't you read it? Can't read it on here because it's so vulgar, but yeah, he's a stalker, dude. Straight up. Mr. Dallas. We call him Alice. We smoked him out, though. Phil Stern smoked him out in one of his profiles. He said, I got 2 profiles in you. I got you. We got one of them. He called himself Dustin. And he's always calling me an expletive bird. Poop bird or whatever. My tactics are poop bird, but it's not poop, it's something else. then his name is Justin, so I'm like, well, what, you know, it's an easy find, you know. Starts talking trash, just can't help himself, so called himself Dustin, which rhymes with his real name. So, geez, you're hard to find. Somebody who's slightly intelligent could figure it out, you know. My poop bird tactics. I don't had any tactics. This isn't Sun Tzu and the Art of War, dude. It's just Facebook and groups. You know, it's if you're that determined to dedicate your life to hating someone, to hating me, I really sincerely feel sorry for this guy. And what he needs is prayer. Honestly, I'm not kidding. You know, some of these Christian Adams, Wolf Creek, yes, very much Wolf Creek. Oh, Mick Taylor over here. You know, that's how he acts. I mean, he acts like just completely, it's crazy, dude. Like, it's nuts, man. It says, do I record the stand-up? Well, when you do stand-up, whoever your audience is who you're going to have to play to. So, you know, I'm going to be at a place where they do some of it's vulgar. You know, there's some jokes that are vulgar. So no, I'm not going to be posting in here anything to do with this. You know, like Lyle has his band. Okay. This is my thing. You know, I like to box and I like to be funny. I can't tell you how many times I was standing around downtown and we were about to fight and I just had to say something smart before I did what I did. And it was my friends told me that I was a king of one-liners. Just always, it was a funny statement and a knockout. That was my thing. People don't want to hear that though. They're like, "Oh, don't talk about how you're tough." Just, you know. Truth is though, when I was in school, I played sports. I did different things. And I was known kind of as a bad kid, tough guy, whatever. But I hung out with a lot of guys who weren't. I hung out with a lot of people. I had a lot of friends. I wasn't like Mr. Popular. I wasn't one of the rich, cool kids because they were cool. They had all the neat toys and things. I didn't have all that. I was poor, but I could fight, so people didn't mess with me. So I made friends with a lot of people who were nerds. By the definition, you know, they would be kind of like, you know, nerdy, geeky, nerdy, dorky people, whatever. Other kids would mess with them, pick on them, but when I came, it was over. Playtime was over because they were my friend, and they weren't the kind of kids that would go and start and mess with anybody. So if they had a problem, it was the other person started it. All they wanted to do was just sit in the library and play Dungeons and Dragons at lunchtime. And guess what? I played it with them. I like to play Dungeons and Dragons, but I also like to play football and baseball, and I like to box and wrestle. I was very athletic. I was freaky athletic. I was a athletic freak. I'm not kidding. Still am kind of freaky for being 46, you know. But I hung out with people who were nerds. You know, other people were like my friends that were jocks. They were like, "Those guys are nerds." I'm like, "Yeah, but they're smart." And when you're on all advanced placement classes, you're smart. So those are the people you hang out with. I mean, sorry, you're not smart. You know, what do you want me to tell you? So I had already, through the Becca school that I went to, was already like able to graduate at the age of 14. That's something I haven't told people. But I decided I didn't decide anything. My dad's like, "Yeah, he's going to need a social life." What he wanted me to do was just play sports so he could vicariously live his life through me, which I enjoyed playing sports anyway. He didn't have to force me, but he made it miserable. He made me not want to do it. It was miserable. Because if you didn't do something correctly, you know, you weren't trying hard enough. You know, "Oh, you lost? Well, I won't come pick you up." It was that kind of thing. It really was. So he was just that kind of guy. So whatever. Great guy, the Romans. I'll tell you what. Great guy. Awesome. Brooks says, "I tried playing Dungeons and Dragons. I just couldn't get into it." You have to get used to it, and you have to be around people who know what they're doing. When I first played it, the first time I played it, I was like, "What is this? This is dumb. I'm like throwing dice, and this is dumb." And I didn't, you know, and then they convinced me the next time, and I was like, well, I'm out in the middle of a party in the middle of the country, you know, as a kid, not a party, but like a sleepover. I was like 11 years old, and they were like, I was like, what else is there to do, you know? So we started playing, and I got into it, and I was like, oh, it's actually pretty cool. You use your imagination. I wasn't usually like the best, you know, whatever. My characters would die. I'd make bad decisions, you know, but you get better at it, you know. It's just whatever. It's like everything else, you know. Now people don't use their imagination. They just sit in front of I play video games. Yeah, bro. People totally pay me to do this. It's crazy. And my friend Loki, I'm not making fun of people that do that, but my friend Loki used to do that for a living. He was like, people pay me to watch me play video games. And he did it for a while. He just got burned. He got tired of it. He got burned out on it, dude. But it's just, you know, it is what it is. Loki's going to come on the show at some point. I'm going to get him on here. He's going to tell his black-eyed kid story. Also, he was a witness, I believe, to, I think he was one of the first people who actually told me about the reptilian-looking eyed dude. So I'm going to start getting people on here. I'm going to get him and Squid on here, and they can tell you more about their experiences with whatever happened to them, you know, with that reptilian-looking dude. And one of the former managers said recently, reached out to me about the club and the haunting at the club, which I've been waiting to do something with that, but I wanted to talk to him, who's a manager, so I wanted to get him on there. So what was Loki playing? I don't know. I can ask him to jump on the chat and he can tell you. Here, Anthony. Because if he's in the chat, I might just get him to come on and tell his story. So later on tonight, I'm supposed to be joined by Tony Merkel. First things first, though, I want to get a guy on here, okay? After I read the Patreon, we're going to get this guy on here. His name is Paul Anthony Wallace. Now, he's out of Australia, and he's got some interesting things to say. And then we'll get in some Q&A. So Eric Garcia, thank you. Ryan, Super Hornet 1, Debbie Wolf, text Loki and tell him to jump on the chat. People are asking questions. Extreme Reality Check, Histotech, James Estrada, Tim Renard, Ricardo Herrera, Barry. Barry, thank you for all you've paid. You've been like a big supporter, and so you guys get in touch with me so I can give you what you got coming. I'll give you Chronological. Thank you for that too. Titan and Dead Man Walking. You guys, Guy, Don Wells, Melissa Panay, Derek Tribble. You all deserve something, you know. Andrea Krask. It's amazing. Shannon, Dick Richards, Joyce Brunette, Wendy Page Williams, Barbara Blendy, Martin Hertel, Terry Fusler, Chris Clough, Curtis Turner, Philip Morn, Alexander Murphy, Matthew Durgo, Chris Smith, and Ralph Ayu. Just about everybody I named, with the exception of maybe the first 3 or 4, because you guys just started. But once you hit that 3-month mark, hit me up, you know. I think the first, I think Leighton, Mary Plyler, Stephen Hall, Miguel Guetta, Eric Garcia, you guys are all newer. But everybody else, you know, you deserve a grab bag. I'm just going to grab some stuff and throw it in there. Maybe my wife's jewelry, you know, that I hate. Maybe something good. Maybe, you know, and maybe, I don't know. Hey, where's she at? Bring her in here. Not my wife. I'm not going to grab my wife on the here. Here you guys. You know, no. But you never know what I might throw in. I might throw in some stickers, which reminds me we need to order stickers for that. And we need to go to Costco/Sam's. So somebody wants to tell D I need some socks. Put that down. This one. We might just throw her in there. We're going to throw her in there. What are you doing, sweet girl? This is, you always give me kisses. This is Elvira. This cutie is Elvira. Say hi, Elvira. Say hi. Hey. Hi. My name is Elvira. It's crazy. Look at this. What are you doing, Elvira? You gonna look at the camera? You gonna look at the camera? You look at the camera? Say hi. Hi, mommy. Say hi. Say hi to Nelly. You're not looking at the camera, Elvira. You're not very good on camera, are you? Elvira. She goes, look at her. Elvira, we got her from the neighbors. The neighbors didn't like her. And I'm not joking. The neighbors left her out on their patio. And so, you want to go? You want to get up on the table? Go to Anthony? So they left her out on their patio, and it would be cold outside. And my wife just flipped. She was like, why is she outside? And they were like, she make a noise. Okay. Because you don't do anything with her. That's why she make a noise. Then I offered them $100 for her. I was going to give you $100 for her. Just to get her away from those people. And the guy's like, nah. He's in there eating chicken wings while he's talking to me. It's a true story. And nah, I'm going to keep her. So I just went to his wife, who did not want the dog at all. And I said, just give us the dog for $100. And she said, no, you can have the dog for free. So we got you for free. My sweet girl. So she's cool. Yeah, you're a cool dog. Good dog. Elvira, Mistress of the Bark. If you haven't heard that song by Lyle Blackburn, Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, go check it out. But not during my live stream. Do it afterwards. Wish I could sing like him. Elvira.
Somebody in the UK was asking if it costs too much to send stuff to England.
It costs way too much to send stuff to England, and I am so sorry. I mean, I'm talking me and Paul Anthony Wallace, me and Paul Sinclair are trying to figure out how we're going to get his books over here at a reasonable price. He doesn't want to let me pay a bunch of money for it, and I said, look, dude, it is what it is. When those shows drop, those are going to be good shows, the Dogman Origin shows. So people are going to want to get the books. So we got to give them away, you know? Me and Barton were talking the other day, and it was funny. Tanya Wills, just sending out love to all and gratitude for the entire PRT team and the company and comfort of fellow paratroopers. Be good to yourselves and each other. Be patient, and above all, be kind. Real quickly, before I go into that story, let me tell you something. People are complaining that I'm not just up here rapid firing stories on the live stream, but this isn't story time. This was never meant to be story time. This was Q&A. And then people would come on and guess, things like that, and we talk. That's what this was for. And then it became, well, you're not telling stories. Where's our stories at? You know, the stories are on the Friday podcast. That's what that's for. I just was nice and said, hey, I can start telling you some stories. And then I said I'd like to give you a few. And so I did. You know, I will do that. I usually do that. And so that's what's going to happen. But, you know, there's other things that need to be done. Okay. So right now we're going to call someone and get him on here. And maybe he can tell you a story. I don't know. Do I need the headphones?
No, you should be speaker.
Good. I have to use those awful things.
But if they're hearing feedback from him, then you'll probably have to turn down with it. G'day, Josh.
Hey, good day, Paul. Folks, this is Paul Anthony Wallace, and I apologize for the late start. Like I was telling my audience, the rain, we had a bunch of issues. So how's the weather down under?
Well, today it's favorable. It's we've got some sun, but there's a bit of a cool breeze, so we know we are alive.
Yeah, and you guys are in, spring right now, right?
Yes, it is theoretically spring, although some days it's winter.
Sounds like Texas. One day we've had 3 seasons in one week. I can tell you that. It's crazy. But
makes it interesting. Keeps us guessing.
It does. And what part of Australia are you currently residing in? What?
Just outside the Australian Capital Territory, which is on the east side of the continent.
Okay, Canberra. Yeah, Canberra. So yeah. I got that. What you guys would call the Yank accent, but I'm not a Yankee technically, because in the United States, a Yankee is a person from the north, but you guys call us all Yanks because you're from England, right? Originally.
That's right. Yes, but I think that's what we called Americans in the Second World War, which was a little before my time. So.
Yeah. Yeah, well, because I've had a few of my friends. They use the words bloke and you know, they'll say yank or whatever, kind of playing around.
Oh well, bloke is still current usage in Australia.
Yeah. What brought you to Australia, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, originally I came over for a particular job. I came to work for the Anglican Diocese in Canberra, and it was because I was looking around for a new job, wanted something interesting in pastoral ministry, and it was back in the day before email. Mm-hmm. So I sent out these hard copy letters, speculative letters to organizations I thought I might want to work for, and it was almost an afterthought that I realized, hey, I'm still single. I could really get a job anywhere that's English speaking. Why don't I try some other places too? And so while I was waiting for a reply from potential UK employers, I sent off some letters to bishops in Australia, where I'd been on holiday just a few months before. And the first employer to get back to me to say, "Oh, I think I'd be interested in meeting you," happened to be the then Bishop of Canberra. And so out I came.
And you've been a part of the church for quite a while.
Oh, my ministry in the church began in 1985. And then, a long time ago. And then I was ordained as a deacon and then a priest in the Church of England. That was 1990. So that's 31 years ago. So, yes, I've done some yards in church ministry for sure.
But so me and you had a talk the other night, and it was a pretty good long talk, and we talked about some very interesting things, and we had planned you to come on the live stream and introduce you to the fans. I'm excited about talking to you because I don't often get to talk to someone that's a theologian to have those kinds of discussions. And I think that when we do the show, which we're going to record later this week at the end of the week, and it gets released, which will be in November, I believe. But it's going to be very, very interesting. I think that people are going to be really blown away by what you have to say. You have 2 YouTube channels, I believe. Do you want to tell us what those are?
Sure. Yes. The Fifth Kind TV on YouTube is our larger channel. I think we've got about 687,000 subscribers, and our most popular videos had about 8.5 million views in the last 18 months. And we look at various interesting themes about the universe we live in. We've got a fair focus on ET contact, populated universe, and we delve a little bit into the ancient mythologies and narratives around planet Earth. My own channel, the Paul Wallace channel, also on YouTube, covers that, but also goes a little bit more into shamanic and mystical things. And my background really feeds into all that because in all those years in church-based ministry, 33 years, I spent a time as a theological educator, so getting into the roots of where the Bible came from and how we handle it. I did work as a church doctor, and that gets you into really interesting territory. Entity removal and things like that is part of that work. And then as an archdeacon, so you're doing a lot of high management level problem solving kind of work. So it was a very wide ranging background, which has then informed all the work I'm doing as a researcher today, which touches on present phenomena, but also phenomena in the deep past and getting our head around what our ancestors were really trying to tell us.
Well, one of the things that me and you talked about the other day was the translations, and you have the Fifth Kind, right? That's another.
That's right. The Fifth Kind TV is the big channel. Yep.
Yeah, that's the big one. Now, that's how I found you. And I don't even know how it popped up, but somehow it popped up into my YouTube, I guess, algorithms or something. And I watched one of your videos, and it was very, very interesting. And my dog is in here. Come here. Come on. Sorry. And Anthony stepped out for a minute. Come here. So it was very, very interesting. And one of the things that I agreed with you on that particular video was that the translations of the Old Testament are not, they don't translate to English the way that we would like just to assume that they do. And, we had that conversation, and it was like, it's being linguistical too helps. I mean, like, having understanding of the languages, and you're going like, wait a minute, this changes, everything. When you start to learn that there's more to, than just the King James version of the Bible. And you're starting to learn that there are so many different translations, that it's been printed and reprinted for centuries. We're
really fortunate that we've got such access to really ancient Hebrew texts. Mm-hmm. And when we dug up the documents in the Nag Hammadi Desert in the 1940s, we suddenly had evidence of how faithfully these ancient texts had been transmitted through the centuries. So we can go back to the Hebrew text very confident that we're looking at the text as it was when the Old Testament, the Hebrew scriptures, took their final shape in about the 6th century BCE. And once we've got to the texts, we can then ask the questions. So and these were all the things I trained pastors in. We asked the form critical questions. What kind of literature is this? What are the clues in the texts? What's the clues in the context? We ask source critical questions. Where did these narratives come from? How do they differ from the originals? And what's the significance of the difference? And then we ask the linguistic question, which is really fundamental. What do the words mean? And I found that when you apply all those kinds of questions to moments in the Bible story that would raise anyone's eyebrow, moments where God seems to do very strange, random, violent, vicious things, and you think, well, is that right? Is that translated right? You drill down into all those questions, and the answers that emerge are really earth-shattering. And that was my whole route into paleo contact.
Yeah, and when we talked about that, I began to question that years and years and years ago. But when you start to question the canon, I mean, you know, you're like, well, okay, a simple one. Let's throw an easy one here. I thought the Gospel of Thomas too, but the Book of Enoch, and I feel like it should be canon. And one of the people in the chat just said, should it be canon? And I believe it should. But I mean, I began to question. Go ahead.
The Book of Enoch is interesting. I mean, at one level, it doesn't matter too much if it is canon, because the writer of Genesis 6 kind of assumes we've all read the Book of Enoch, because he's just giving us a summary form of it in that moment. It's almost like he's saying, oh, well, this is what happened when the Bene Elohim turned up and hybridized with our females. He thinks we know the story. Or you can go to the New Testament to Jude, when he wants to quote the story of Enoch, the character from Genesis. He quotes the Book of Enoch word for word. And so clearly he assumes his New Testament readers have all read the Book of Enoch. So believers shouldn't be afraid of reading it. The biblical writers assume we know the book. If you go to Ethiopia, though, it's worth saying it has always been part of the canon of the Old Testament in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. So it's there, and you should look at it and see what's in it, because, for instance, it was that book that first got Eric von Daniken onto the whole subject of paleo contact, because in the Book of Enoch, it's inescapable.
One of the things I was going to say is people, there's a fear, and it happened to me when I began to question what we were reading. I'm like, I think a lot of this is not correct. And I was like, I believe it's out of order too. When I began to find this on my own, just from researching, it was disturbing. And when I mentioned it, church people, certain people that were a part of, they were like, it was castigation. You began to be castigated for it. Like, why are you don't question the word of God. And then somebody told me God is the same today as he was yesterday and he will be tomorrow. I said, yes, the true God, the God that I serve, the God of Christ. But when I looked at the Old Testament, one of the main questions that came up was like, why, I can't even get into it. There's so many different things. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? Why does this God want blood sacrifice when the God that Christ speaks of would never ask you to go and kill an animal? There's no reason. I mean, there's so many things that did not make sense to me, all the way up to like the Exodus. I questioned that. I was like, there's no archaeological proof of this. Now they claimed in recent years, but
any child can identify the kind of questions that you're talking about. If you sit down with a children's Bible and a child and start from Genesis 1 verse 1, they all ask all the relevant questions. Why does it say, let us make? Let us make humans to look like one of us. Who's the us? Or you get to Genesis 3, hang on, who's the serpent? We haven't been told who that is. How come he can talk? Or couldn't God see something was going to go wrong here? couldn't he guess they were going to eat that piece of fruit? And then the death penalty for eating a piece of fruit, and now God wants the humans so unintelligent they don't even know they're naked. A child will point all that out. You get to Genesis 6, and he's genociding the entire human race because he's changed his mind about having us on the planet. The child will say, but isn't God a God of love? Get to Genesis 11, you've got a whole civilization obliterated because they've breached building codes. Well, the child will ask the questions, and usually what happens is the parent or the preacher will mumble an answer and think, oh, gee, I need to get back to that at some point, get my head around that, because I don't think I was convinced by my own answer. It's those kinds of anomalies that when you drill down with the translation questions and the source questions, you get to a realization that what we have translated as God's stories, not all of them are God's stories.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get to the source of those stories, you realize these are stories about something else that we have mistranslated. And in my books, Escaping from Eden and the Scars of Eden, I argue that the original stories were stories of paleo contact, which those who rewrote the Bible in the 6th century BCE reinterpreted as God's stories. But the shape of the original stories is still there. You can still see the conflict among these entities, and you have to start asking who and what they are.
Yeah, and like, okay, for example, the flood, according to Mesopotamian belief, I guess you could throw say Babylonian too. I mean, it's the same thing.
Yes,
it's just one following the other. Then of course the Persians took over. There were the Assyrians, and then the Babylonians and the Persians, and it just kind of went on and on. But they followed a god named Enlil. Now, Enlil was the one that was like, I hate humans, and I'm going to wipe out the earth. That was the story that was passed down. I mean, it was like he was angry, and it was, and in some of the versions of it, and there's different versions, but I know one in particular was really weird. It was like he just thought we were too noisy. So he was just like, you know what?
Yes,
I'm just
that's
gonna,
right.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going to destroy the world because y'all are loud and noisy, and I just don't like you.
Yeah, too many of them around. They're too noisy. That's right. So in the Bible, that story is told as God made humanity. God decided he'd had enough of humanity. God decided to flood humanity, and then God decided to rescue humanity through Noah and his family. And it's got this strange double-mindedness in the story. Well, when I did this translation work that I'm speaking about, there's a key word that unlocks the whole thing, and it's the word Elohim. It's the original word that gets translated as God. It literally means the powerful ones. And it is a plural masculine form word. It takes plural verbs. It exhibits plural behaviors. There are conflicts among the Elohim. And by the time you get to Genesis 6, you realize one Elohim is saying, I want to get rid of humanity. And another Elohim is saying, no, I want to rescue them. And the story is not of a double-minded deity. It is of two entities conflicting over Project Humanity with one another. That is the shape of the source stories from out of Sumeria, Babylonia, Arcadia, Assyria. They all tell this story. The Bible story is based on those stories. Those stories are not the story of God. They're stories of what you can translate as sky people who colonized the planet in the deep past and then had these conflicts over how to manage Project Humanity. You've got Enlil, who wants to get rid of the humans, Enki, who wants to rescue them. And the Noah story plays out in that context. So you've got Artrahasis, Zusudra, Utnapishtim. They are all the same story. And there are amazing correlations of detail in the Babylonian, Sumerian, Akkadian telling of these stories. When it comes to the ark, we're given precise measurements for this object that is constructed as an escape capsule for Noah, Artrahasis, Zusudra, Utnapishtim, and his animals. And the variance in volume across all those different cultural tellings, across all the centuries, the variance in volume is 4%.
Yeah.
When you do the maths of how to construct that thing. So you know you're reading the same moment, the same account, the same story that's been carried through the ages, We didn't know this until the 1800s, because before the 1800s, we couldn't read the ancient documents that came out from Mesopotamia because we had no translation key. And then in 1835, it was discovered. It was the Behistun inscription. It was discovered by Henry Rawlinson, who was out there for the East India Tea Company, training the troops for the Shah of Iran. And in exchange for that, he had access to this site that gave him the translation key. So all of a sudden, we could read the cuneiform tablets that held the records of those ancient Mesopotamian cultures. And it's then that we started reading these stories of Utnapishtim, Gilgamesh, Atrahasis, Yasudra, Enlil, Enki. And bit by bit, it became very clear this is where the Bible got these stories from. Mm-hmm. And they're not God's stories. They are stories about other powerful entities. And when we get into the 20th century, the implications become very clear. It is extraterrestrial species that we're talking about.
Yeah, and we look like them, but they are giants compared to us. I mean, that was the whole. They said make us in our image. Somebody asked me, well, where did they go? Why did they make us? If we're small, small. And I said, why wouldn't you? If you were engineering a race of slaves, wouldn't you make them tinier so you could squash them if they cause a problem? I mean, it just common sense,
That's a great answer. I love that, Josh. In the Bible, we've got a group called the Sky Council, which is like just before Christmas, you might know that Hayam Eshed, the brigadier general who was the chief of space security for Israel for 27 years, he said that on the basis of that work, he understands that there's an intergalactic federation that's already in contact with us at a covert government level. When he says intergalactic federation, obviously it implies a plurality of species. He's just using modern language for what the Bible called the Sky Council. And the stories of the Sky Council are there in the Bible, there in the Sumerian, there in the Greek, the Norse, the Indian, all around the world. And the council implies there's quite a range of entities who are involved in Project Earth. Maybe some tall, some short, some flesh and blood like us, some energy-based, some trans-dimensional. There's this huge spectrum, and that spectrum emerges in the Sky Council stories in the Bible. When our visitors started engineering our ancestors, it's quite possible they engineered us to be very similar to themselves. The stories of giant versions of ourselves come a little further down the track when we get into the hybridization stories.
Christian Adams said something interesting. He says here in the chat, he said, Enki, Lucifer, Loki, Poseidon, the same being. What do you think of that? I don't Poseidon, but anyway, what do you think of that, Paul?
I'd have to hear that list again. What was the list?
He said Enki, Lucifer, Loki, Poseidon, the same being.
All right. Well, yes, there are elements of those stories that do all overlap. I think what's really confusing for people particularly from a Christian background, is that when you go to Genesis 3, the way it's translated at the moment, and this would be true for Jewish readers as well, the way it's translated at the moment, you've got God versus the serpent. Now, I'm suggesting that's actually a mistranslation. I'm suggesting God isn't in that story at all, that it really is a retelling of Enlil versus Enki. But because of one verse in the book of Revelation, Christians have equated Enki with Satan, or with Lucifer, which makes him the bad guy. And so it's then very confusing that the bad guy is wanting to upgrade the humans and improve their human experience, and God is against human progress. That's where we get ourselves into a mess and a confusion. So the first step is to realize it's not a God story, it's the story of Enlil and Enki. And the second is to go back to that verse in Revelation and realize it's not necessarily equating Enki with Lucifer or Enki with Satan. It's actually a reference to a draconian entity of which the Hebrew scriptures are full. there are draconian entities all through the Hebrew scriptures. And we often get confused because we think there's only one. And some of these Elohim, the powerful ones, were draconian entities. And that's some of the territory I get into in the Fifth Kind TV, and just shine a light on the fact that the Bible is full of stories of all different kinds of entities, some nice, some nasty, some pro-human, some anti-human, and that we miss this great spectrum because we've translated them all as God's stories.
Mm-hmm. There's some people in the chat room that are just not liking what we're talking about, and I knew that would happen. Not most of the people are pretty neutral or excited about what we're talking about, but that's what I mean by castigation. Somebody said this is blasphemy, time to go. Another person said that they're going to thumbs down me. Well, I'm sorry, but the truth is the truth. When you have studied the Bible as long as I did, I went to an Abeka school when I was a kid. And it was kind of a melding of like science and Christianity, which they taught that the world was 5,000 years old. There were no dinosaurs and blah, 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 which I thought was ridiculous.
Yes.
Even as a child, I knew that was ridiculous. I asked the question, how did the Noah get only 2 of each animal? And I asked questions that I shouldn't have been asking. And of course, I was the bad guy. And then as I got older, I began to read about the Gnostics, and how the kingdom of God is found from within. And what I found that is to be true. The outside world is not where you're going to find the kingdom of God. I think that when Christ was gone for 20 years, he was gone. We don't even know what he was doing. But I mean, I know that he traveled and he went to the east and he did different things. There's legends and stories of him having showed up in temples and all the way to Japan. There's stories.
Oh yes, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
And
he absolutely are.
Yeah, he studied with Buddhists, he studied with Hindus, he studied with all these different people, and everybody has their own take on it. Like if you look at the Kurdish people, the Yazidi, okay, they're known as heretics amongst some of their own people because the Muslims and Christian Kurdish, they think that they're weird because they believe in a peacock god. And we could get into that. We'll get into that on the show when we do the Friday when we record together. But we can talk about all that. But the thing is, they believe that there was a God basically that created us, and that the big God, wasn't happy about it, but he forgave him. Okay. And that was sort of like, that was Lucifer, So, of course, to most people, they're going to be like, oh, my God, that's horrible. But I think a lot of people are misunderstanding who and what these people and these beings are or who they were. When you read the Bible, you're told that Lucifer is the bad guy, and it's not drummed over and over again. It's just Lucifer once or twice, and then the rest of it is Shaitan, Shaitan, Shaitan. And everybody assumes that they're talking about Lucifer. I personally have my own opinions, my own beliefs. I believe that he fell. It was a rebellion, and then afterwards there was a falling from the fallen, the 200 Watchers. Now I think there's 2 different things going on there. Now when we record together, we can get into that, and you can explain to me your take on that. But there's going to be people who are just not going to accept the truth, and they're not going to think, and I'm not advocating that Satan or Lucifer were the good guys. I'm not saying that. What we're saying is that the translations of in particular the Old Testament, are not correct. One of the things I wanted to say too, before we jump off here, is that the book of Job, I believe, predates the Genesis.
Oh, yes. Yes, it does. There's a very broad scholarly consensus saying that the book of Job is the earliest text that we have the oldest text we have in the Bible, and that it may even have come into the Hebrew canon from an Arabic source. And it's one of the books that talks about the Sky Council and gives us a glimpse of the spectrum of entities on it. But, to people who get anxious about us discussing these things from a Christian viewpoint, I think whatever the faith you hold, we have to bring it back to the essential of understanding our texts. So it's not my agenda to go out and debunk the Bible, far from it. I want to understand what it's saying. And that's why I ask, what do the words mean? What kind of story is this? So that we can actually get the information that's there because I think it's our translation that's obscured a wealth of information with which the Bible actually provides us.
Yeah. Somebody just said this isn't the oldest religion from Iraq, and it's based on the flame or light. I forget what exactly it's called. I don't know if you're talking about Zoroastrianism. I don't know. That's actually from Iran. One of the things that I learned through my studies, and it's self-taught. Okay, I didn't go to do what you did, Paul. Obviously, you're head and shoulders above what I've been able to. I've had a life where I've had a time to read, at times, because when I was a young guy, I spent a lot of my time locked up. And I'll be real honest with you, until I was 17, and then I stopped getting in trouble. But 3 or 4 years of my youth, all I did was read for those solid years. So you imagine, you start reading all these things. I read the Gospel of Thomas, the Apocryphals, and you read the Gnostics, and you begin to understand a little more that, hey, there's something else going on here. You actually read about a character named Yaldabaoth, and that our universe is counterfeit, and all these other different theories and thoughts and things, and you're going like, what's the truth? Somebody said Abu Mazda, yes. So what it is Zoroastrian, they actually played a part in the birth of Jesus Christ's story. I argued with a Christian one day, and he's like, "You're a blasphemer. You're a satanic man." And I'm like, "I'm a satanic man because I told you that the 3 wise men were Zoroastrians?" He said, "They were Christians." I said, "No, they weren't, because Christ had just been born. So how could they have possibly been Christians?" I said, they were Zoroastrians. They followed a star. They studied astronomy / astrology, and they followed a star to find Christ in Bethlehem. And they were Zoroastrians. They were 3 wise men. They were known as wise men. And they had the knowledge to find him, because they knew that the birth of the Savior had taken place.
Yes.
And of course, I was chastised for that. And this guy started yelling at me, and I'm not going to be yelled at. I was like, whatever. It was a family friend of one of my close friends. And he was just like, he's crazy. But I'm sitting there being yelled at for even saying such things, because it's just a heretical thing. You're just so horrible. And so many people are going to tune out, because they don't want to hear what you have to say. But the truth is the truth, and you can hide it and cover it and throw dirt on it. It's going to crawl back out, because it is what it is, the truth, and the truth.
Well,
find its way out.
For some people, it's actually their faith in Jesus that leads them into this whole realm of paleo contact, because if you believe that God is how Jesus shows us God to be, that gives you a whole load of questions about moments in the Old Testament where God appears to be very different to that, where God is unforgiving, can't be reasoned with, can turn on a dime, is unpredictable, can make mistakes, is vicious. And you read how he treated King Saul, for instance, and it would be a far more ingenious preacher than I who can get a positive moral of the story out of what he did to Saul. I have a problem with that, because Jesus has taught me about love and forgiveness. I wouldn't have a problem with that story without Jesus saying God is this other way. And so it's actually Jesus who raises the questions in the first place. Have we read this right? And on a lot of occasions, the answer is no, we've not read it right.
And a lot of the things that were written in the Hebrew Bible were made to benefit man. And when you look at the thing, it doesn't make sense,
It is if you look at the history of how the Hebrew canon formed, again, you wouldn't find a serious Bible scholar to tell you different to this, that we begin with a set of scrolls, the stories of beginnings. Very possibly they're the stories that Abraham and Sarah brought with them from their mother culture. And then they're added to and edited into a single piece called the Pentateuch to teach the law of Moses. And then more books are added. That becomes the Deuteronomistic history. They're edited to form a whole with the agenda of authenticating the priesthood and the monarchy. And then the prophets are added to that. And that is how the canon forms. But already I've told you, the Pentateuch was written to teach the Mosaic law. So there's an agenda. The Deuteronomistic history put together to authenticate the monarchy and the priesthood. So there's a political agenda. These are all aspects to what's going on in those texts that is not about pure translation. It's about layering interpretation over the top. But it's done pretty transparently. This is the wonderful thing about the Hebrew canon, that you can see all these layers, peel them off one at a time, and still get back to the root stories and ask the question, what do the words mean and what in the world is going on there? And that's the really mysterious, exciting part of it.
Yeah, and Paul, one of the things people forget is the King James Version is written by King James, and so the English and the
Yes.
French, and
it wasn't the Bible Jesus used.
No, not at all. And it gets even further afield when you go into the Schofield and everything else. But I'm not going to get into all
Of
that.
course.
But I mean, like
Yes.
when you look at the code, okay, just the code of Deuteronomy, they followed that in the medieval times. The French, the English, the Spanish, they were monarchist. And of course they were going to install the code of Deuteronomy because that fit their, rebellion
Yes.
is as witchcraft. If you commit rebellion, you better watch it because that you're going to be burned at the stake because you're a witch. Because only a witch would
That's
rebel
right.
against the king or queen. How dare you stand up to the monarchy? Monarchy has been blessed by God, and so you had this whole. They used it all the way up to the. Charlemagne was obviously everybody kind of came from him, and we're going to get into all that, but they used it to control. I mean, it was like, hey, don't question us. There's a code that we follow, and it's the code of Deuteronomy. Of course, that is the Pentateuch you're talking about, where everything was kind of created back in the ancient times, and they took it, the monarchists, and said, I like this. This works for us.
Yes. We can work with that.
Yeah,
That's right.
let's call this the way it should be. And so for the next 1,000 years, we'll lie, and just say that this is the way it is. And I'm sorry, but that's what it is. Actually, I'm not sorry because I'm a truth seeker and I believe in Christ. But I believe that when Christ talked to the Pharisees, he was talking. He's like, your father is not my father. What he's talking about is God Almighty, the one true God. He found who that was, from the get-go. He knew, okay, and he wanted you to find it.
Exactly.
And he says, this is not correct. All this stuff you're doing, you're not eating shellfish. That's good. That's man's law. You shouldn't eat shellfish and pork because back then you could get trichinosis or you could get listeria. That was just man's law. It's unclean.
Exactly.
Well, it's unclean, not by the Spirit, because it matters not as much what you put in the body as it does what you put in your spirit. And Jesus says that. And then he says, you're keeping this Sabbath. He says this. I mean, he tells you, okay, that's good. You're doing that. Keep a day if you want, but that's for man. That's not for God, because the God Almighty is an infinite mind that we can't even fathom or comprehend.
Yes.
Which I wouldn't even follow or worship God if he wasn't an almighty, all-knowing, something that I couldn't comprehend. I had that argument one day with someone, and they said, well, you don't even know what you're worshiping. You don't even know what you're getting. I was like, that's why I worship and serve the one true God, who is the Father of Christ, because I can't fathom, okay? If it was just something that I could look at and go, yeah, I got that figured out, then, that's the way, that's like worshiping a man. I mean, why would I follow that? That makes no sense.
Yep.
It's something that we can't comprehend, but it doesn't mean that we can't try and at least translate what he's trying to tell us. We need to try to figure out what he's trying to tell us, and just going along with centuries of dogma that is not correct is not the answer. I'm sorry. It's just not. And I have a lot of people who will argue with me, all day long about that. But anyway.
Well, Jesus, to go back to what you're saying earlier, Jesus absolutely distances himself from much of the interpreted as God's story of the Hebrew canon. I mean, so many times he said, Moses said this, but I say this. In the law, Moses allowed you this, but I say this. And he is setting himself as a direct alternative. And he so repudiates the teaching of the Old Covenant that we get to Acts 15, and the apostles have to come to a ruling over what to do with the law, with the Hebrew canon. Is it necessary for people who are now becoming Christians from a non-Jewish background? And the council in Jerusalem is chaired by Jesus's brother, and they come swiftly to the conclusion, no, We dispense with that. We're moving on. Those laws are no longer binding. Now, they could only make that decision in Acts 15 because Jesus had made it clear he was not authenticating the Old Covenant and the Hebrew canon. There's a really telling moment when Jesus is teaching the crowds, and he says, which of you, if your child asked you for bread, would give him a stone, or asked for food, you'd give him a serpent?
Exactly.
And he says, well, look, if you evil lot know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts, give the Holy Spirit, says the other gospel, to those who ask him. Now, that seems like a pretty extreme illustration to reach for. Which of you fathers, if asked for food, would give your children serpents? Where does he get it from? He gets it from a moment in the Hebrew canon when the people of Israel are starving in the desert. They've been existing on a single food for we don't know how long. They've got fed up. They call out on the manna. That's right. They call out for proper food. They don't want to starve. And Yahweh sends them serpents.
Yeah. And
so Yahweh sends hungry children serpents. And Jesus says, which of you fathers would do such a thing? And so that's a direct contradiction of the Yahweh story. There is no point at which Jesus equates the Yahweh stories with the God he calls Father. And that's the real controversy that you see playing out through the Gospels, and that the church had to rule on in Acts 15. No, we don't read it that way. We don't read the Old Covenant as true God story anymore. And we have had 2,000 years to think through the implications of that, and some of us are still struggling with that.
Yeah, very, very much so. Titan, I want to thank you for the donation. It says, Josh, thanks for all the great guests you invite to the show. Got to have Paul back to talk to us. Just too much to unpack tonight. Blessings on you and yours, bro. Yes, Titan, thank you for that donation. Titan, I want to tell you, me and Paul are actually going to record on Friday. So Paul will be recording with me for 28 hours, and he doesn't know that yet, but it's what's going to happen. And we're going to give you all the answers. Right. Or, another thing too, Paul, before I let you go, because we got to run, but I wanted to tell you, my conversation with you was amazing. I had a great conversation. It was very peaceful, very, very telling. And we hit it off immediately. And I thought, this is somebody that I would love to just sit here and talk to for hours, because it's something that, I talk a lot, but you are an amazing individual, and I think you've come to a lot of correct conclusions, and I'm looking forward to having you come back. Before you run, though, what is the name of your books? Do you want to name a couple of those books?
Sure. If you go to Amazon, Kindle, Barnes & Noble, Hive, Book Depository, wherever books are sold, you will find Escaping from Eden and The Scars of Eden. And you can get them there. And I love dialoguing with my readers. So if you want to get into conversation with me, you can go to the Fifth Kind TV on YouTube or the Paul Wallace channel on YouTube. And I'm always there in the comments dialoguing with people.
Paul is a very, very, very well-read individual. I wish that I had all of your knowledge. I just have a little, but I mean, Josh, you know things I don't know. That's for sure. So between the two of us, we'll have a very interesting conversation. Yeah, and we can download to each other, because there's people that believe that we have multiple strands of DNA, and maybe we can unlock some of those. I'm just kidding. Anyways, we gotta go on, folks. Paul, thank you for coming on. I'm looking forward to our conversation on Friday. I'm stoked, and I'm ready to record. I marked my calendar. October's a very busy month for me, very busy. But I was like, the opportunity to record with you was very important, and I cleared it for that. I was like, okay, I'm doing this.
Awesome.
So
thanks, Josh. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah. So you have a good day, and have a good day. And, I'll see you, Paul. All right, we'll be seeing you on Friday. All right, bye-bye.
All the best. Bye.
So that's Paul Anthony Wallace, a friend of mine that I corresponded with, and I did it because I wanted to bring you guys some theology. Everybody is always talking about the theology. I'm sorry, I guess, to those that jumped off. Oh, you're talking blasphemy now. Well, if you don't even stop to listen to what we have to say and you just automatically accuse us of that, that's a shame. It's a shame because you're not going to hear the true gospel, and I really feel like that's what needs to be told. Christianity, I think, is stuck in a wheel, and so I'm not saying we need anything new. I'm not here to change the word of God or to add to it or take it away. No man should do that. I understand that. I'm not here to tell you, hey, this isn't correct. Let's change, whatever. I'm telling you that the answers have been there all along. We just weren't privy to them, and we were not given the correct answers. So I got in touch with Paul, and me and Paul had this hour-long conversation, and I was like, I would have talked to him all night if I could have, but I had things to do. He had things to do, but the thing is, he has a lot of answers. I feel like I have a lot of answers, and like I said, when we do our set together, hopefully we can bring you a show. And I may lose some listeners. But I feel a conviction in my heart to tell you the true gospel, the gospel that Christ was trying to bring. One of the reasons why we have so many problems in this world is because we don't have the true and correct answers. And I believe, like he said, there's a lot of things that we need to talk about and some uncomfortable truths. Folks, I'm going to ask you a question, okay? Do you know how many stories I get of alien abduction, ghosts, demons, fairies, goblins, trolls, whatever you want to call them, okay? Vampires, werewolves, dogman, Bigfoot, it would stagger your mind. It would just blow your mind, okay? Now, one of the things, and I'm not saying that every creature out there is, that everything you see is like, an ogre or a troll or whatever. I'm saying that there's a lot of things out there that we know exist. And you're here watching this show because you believe it too. And you know that these things exist, or you're curious about it. So why, when I come up to you and I tell you, after everything I've learned over the years of what I've read and everything I've studied, when I tell you that there is something that's one of the most important things you could possibly do, which is learn the true translations of the Bible, why is that so hard? Like you can believe that goblins jump around and attack people and everything else, because I believe they do. Stuff like that happens. It really does. But then when you say, hey, the Old Testament's it's not correct. We need to figure out the correct translation because we don't speak those languages, and we need to figure out what it is. Everybody loses their freaking mind. They're like, oh, y'all talk about dogman and UFOs, but oh my gosh, let's not talk about how mankind could have been wrong with their translations of the Bible. And then you flip out and you go, well, I'm out of here. Woo-hoo, see ya. You're speaking blasphemy, sir. We don't take the blasphemers around here, boy. I'm going to need to see your license registration, Mr. Blasphemer. So I get attacked in one group, and they call me Mr. Christian, Mr. Christian, Mr. Christian. And I'm attacked. That's fine. But then I go to another group, and they said, oh, we agree with most of what you said. Oh, you don't think that these are aliens doing this? Oh, get out of here. Get out. Bigfoot couldn't come out of a portal. Get out of here. When do we start looking at where the truth is? Does it ever happen, or we just keep, shunning everybody who says anything? Show them, get the rocks, throw them at like Life of Brian, everybody throwing the rocks at you because you're telling the truth. The guy says that this fish is good enough for Jehovah. They throw the rocks at him, attack him. It's like we're living in the dark ages or the ancient times. Come on. And in those times, I'm going to tell you something else. Those are not even ancient times, by the way. Newsflash. 7, 10, 20, 25, 26, however many thousands of years ago, that's nothing. Okay? That's not even how it goes way back, way further than that. There's a whole bunch of stuff out there. And, you know, I got blistered in the comment section by somebody because I dared to advocate for a one world religion, which I did not do yesterday on the show with Barton and Ken and Lyle. You know, I advocated for a one world religion. When was this? When did I say, well, we're just going to live together, all the religions living together, woohoo, woo. You know, I got a song for you about that. Shut the hole under your nose, shut the hole under your nose. How about that? Yeah. Because you know what you're talking about. I never said that we were going to, you know, join the Space Brothers and have a one world religion. I never said that. So I just, people that you're just getting on my last nerves with, why don't you pay attention to exactly to what I'm talking about and what I'm saying before you jump down my throat with all this? Because you're so smart. You know it all, okay? I'm the buffoon who's read 5,000 books, you know. I haven't read 5,000 books. I'm lying. It was 4,999. I just don't like saying 4,999 because you turn it upside down. It's 666, which is really evil. And I'm against it. I'm against it. I'm against it. I'd really blow your mind if I started talking about sacred geometry and how there's really bad symbols all over the place. And then one in particular that everybody thinks is really bad and evil is actually a good symbol. And the other one that everybody thinks is great is not. If I told you that, you'd really freak out. But you don't know because you can't read it. You won't let anybody read it. You won't let it go into your heart and into your mind. I even have people tell me they don't believe in ghosts. They don't believe in spirits. Are you a Christian? Absolutely. What is the Holy Ghost? Well, awkward. The dad of a girl I dated years ago. I don't believe in ghosts. That's dumb. That's dumb. It's dumb to believe in spirits. And so I asked him, what is the Holy Ghost? I don't know what that is. You don't know what that is, but you're a Christian. That's a problem. When I advocated yesterday that we should read about the other people's religions, I did not say that we all need to go out. I did not say this. And go and start worshiping Buddha and be Hindu. And I got attacked for that. And that's aggravating. I get tired of being attacked. I get tired of being just raked over the coals. If you sat down with me at dinner and you picked my brain and we talked, you would come away with 13 to 14, I just throwing random numbers out there because I like to joke, IQ points. I see that's a lie. We would probably come up with about 30 more. How about that? I would bestow that upon you. I'm kidding, folks. I'm just joking. But it is frustrating. It's aggravating because I get my words mistranslated. And then you see how easily it is to mistranslate my words. That's what happens when man is writing things down in books from thousands of years ago. Okay? That's the problem, that we don't, you cannot trust a translation of something that's been translated and and blah, 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 blah. And how many of you are linguistics? I speak 6 languages. How many do you speak? You need to understand this. And of course, they're not Aramaic. I don't speak Coptic Egyptian, but I do understand different, and I worked very closely with Arabs, and one of my old roommates was Jewish, and he showed me a lot of the Hebrew translations, which he personally did not, wasn't a part of that, but it was very important to understand these. I lived with a guy that was from Germany. He was my roommate for a while, rented a room for me. his roommate came over here. Something came on TV, and they were talking in German, and they were both laughing because the translations were completely wrong. They were wrong on purpose. There was a reason why they were wrong. And I said, what are the actual translations? And they said, well, would you like to learn German? Absolutely. I worked for Lebanese people. They spoke French and Arabic. I learned those languages. This is what you have to do. You have to educate yourself. Okay? When I was a kid, I was locked up in a place where if you wanted an extra dessert, they'll give it to you once you beat that other kid up. My life was my fists, trying to get extra food, and reading. And you're not going to take my knowledge and throw it in the toilet, because I know what I'm talking about. I'm not telling you, worship me as your king and as your God. That's the other guy who says you can't have a nightclub in his comment section. He's not there to entertain you. He's a therapist. He's not there to, he's there for therapy. That's him. I don't do that. Here at PRT, we look for the truth. I'm not here to ask you to worship me. We have fun in the comments section, right? Instead of these people that want you to bow down to them and you can't question them, because that's what was going on in the Old Testament. Then the English and the French and all the which became the colonialists, colonists, not good people, from the medieval times, said, let's just use this. That works good for us. Let's just make that the Bible. This is what you need to read right here, because this right here, we can make it all work for us. Everything else, we'll get rid of all that. What do we need all that for? What do we need the Gnostics for? But that which is hidden is made known. In the Nag Desert, they uncovered, Dead Sea Scrolls, same thing with the Dead Sea Scrolls, same thing with that. The Sumerian tablets, that which is hidden comes to light. That always does. And so when you close off your mind and you're like, you stay ignorant and you go, la, 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 I'm not going to hear you. You're not going to hear you. Once you take your fingers out and you open your eyes, the truth will still be there, right in your face. Truth's like, hey, I'm here. Hey, how's it going? Remember me? I'm the truth. Doesn't go away. So this show is entertainment. It's also educational. Okay? Just read the comment. What the freaking heck? Did you really say that? I was like, no way. Come on, dude. Oh, but you can't deny these things. The facts are the facts. It may turn your theological beliefs on its ear. But, and Barton, I know if you're watching, I love you to death. I love you like a brother. But yesterday, what you said, I strongly disagree with that. Doesn't mean I don't love you, that I love you any less. I disagree with most of the things my real brother says, pretty much most of it. He says a lot of things, and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. He's like, Arby's is really like health food when you think about it. That was a long time ago, and I think we were probably drinking. The point is, Barton, don't take it wrong. But you said, well, there's only two things, the spiritual world and the physical world. Yes and no. I agree, but I don't agree. I think that there's a lot more. And it is a lot to think about. And if it's something that you can't handle, well, then, that's fine. Barton stays in his lane and what he believes. And I don't try to bring him over into the fast lane to learn it. He just does what he does, Him and Ken and Lyle, they write excellent books, and they do what they got to do. The D voice, that's my brother. Rah, 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 rah. That's how he talks. And so I want to bring you along on this journey with me. I'm not going to proselytize to you and ask you to believe like me. But I want you to be exposed to the truth, and you take it for what it is. And if you want to have a party in the comments section, go right ahead, because to me, it's always a party. Say what you got to say. As long as it's not mean. Don't be ugly or rude. Okay? Don't call me names. You know, it is what it is. Okay? I believe what I've uncovered. Okay? And I'm trying to help you and expose you to that. That's what I'm trying to do. Here's what's happening. I'm about to have another guest come on in a minute here. But here's what's happening. This is entertainment, right? And it is, and some of the people, you do show up sometimes to be scared. That's all part of it. This show has a lot of scare factor to it. I try to break it up with humor, do the best I can, but I also want you to hear what's real and what I've learned to be real. So we're going to call someone else. Great questions going on in the chat real quick here. What is a JIT camp? I don't know what that means. Lots of people disagree with me, bro. Used to it. No problem. That's Barton. Hey, Barton. I was actually reading your comment and I didn't even know it was you. Wow. Okay. It's at the top up there. Barton, it's not, we don't disagree on much. I just, I disagree that there's not just two things going on. There's spiritual and spiritual. That is actually a true statement. And that's a simplified way to look at it. That's like saying in baseball, there are two things going on. There's somebody pitching and someone just hitting. Well, yeah, but you also have first base, second base, third base, left field, right field, outfield, and, behind home plate, Bugs Bunny pitching home, Bugs Bunny. Do you remember that? Right field, Bugs Bunny. Left field, Bugs Bunny. Center field, Bugs Bunny. He's playing the Gas House Gorillas. All by himself. He defeated the Gas House Gorillas. It was amazing. First base, Bugs Bunny. Second base, Bugs Bunny. Third base, Bugs Bunny. There's a lot more going on. And if you were Bugs Bunny and you had to play every single position and pitch, which he did in that cartoon, I saw with my own eyes. He did it. He did an excellent job. He defeated the Gas House Gorillas, okay? Even at one point they were hitting and it was like a pinball machine. You remember that? But if you were looking at it from his perspective, there's a lot more going on than just throwing the ball and somebody hitting it. So he beat them all by himself. And he had to play every position. Now, if you're having to play every position, then you get the full spectrum. Your perception of everything is opened up and you're like, oh my gosh, there's an entire world around me. Because what we're seeing right now is this right here, this little, that's our worldview. When it should be like this. Step back and look at the mosaic of what it is. Not just this little lens. This is all you're allowed to look at. And you're going like this. You look through the glass darkly. That's my point. So, we're going to move on. I just don't like when people say mean things and attack, just that's not correct. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you, hey, yeah, it's okay, be ugly. Call me a blasphemer or whatever you want to, I'm not. And, hide from the truth if you want. It doesn't matter because it'll find you one way or another.
Hello.
Hey, Tony?
Yeah, who's this?
I'm calling about your extended car warranty. Do you have a minute?
Yeah, I was just listening to this sacrilegious show. I'm good.
Okay. So this is Tony Merkel, folks. And Tony is the host of a show. You want to introduce yourself? Or you want me to tell him?
Yeah, I can tell him.
Okay.
I host the Confessionals podcast for the last 5 years, and I am now branching into other works with video and documentaries and fun stuff like that.
So, Tony, what you do is you have people come on your show, okay, and they tell true life encounters with the cryptid world, the paranormal world, just about anything, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I literally cover anything. I mean, anything from paranormal to cryptids to the bizarre and unusual. If it's outside the realms of normal, that is exactly what we talk about. And it's just a sit-down conversational show. We don't really have an agenda. It's just two people usually sitting down and talking about somebody's life experiences and sorting it out while we record. It's pretty simple concept, but it works and people seem to enjoy it because I think one of the biggest things for me is I wanted people to feel like they're just sitting at a table listening to people talk, and that's kind of how I grew up. Table talk. You come home from school, you're supposed to be doing your homework. That never happened, and then you sit at the table every night and you talk with the same people every night, and you find ways to hold conversation. And so I just thought, you know what? I think this is the formula I'm going to go with for my podcast. When I first started, I tried, the whole interview thing where it was like, okay, what am I going to ask them? And I'm writing all these questions down, and I'm just like, it's just not me. I'm not a journalist. I don't want to pretend to be one. I'm a conversationalist. So that's what a lot of the show is, just conversations and having a good time. Sometimes it's serious conversation, and sometimes tears are shed, and sometimes there's a lot of laughing because the thought of whatever the person went through is behind them, and they can kind of joke about it. So kind of just let people lead the way with the conversation, and I react to it as it goes.
Yeah, and I can see here in the chat that there is a lot of people that are like here. D. Spence says the Confessionals is a great podcast. I absolutely love. James Estrada says I absolutely love the Confessionals. Everyone needs to listen to the Deep Underground Bunker Show. Wow, that sounds really cool. It sounds like we share a lot of the same listeners, which we have touched on before in our conversations. Me and Tony have had a couple of really long conversations, and we didn't plan to have these long conversations, but it just kind of happens. Tony is, like he said, a great conversationalist. And one of the things that I learned by talking to Tony is that he's a very laid-back guy, but he's also a no-nonsense guy. And and so you take things kind of as they come, and you do what I do. We're very, very similar in our styles, that we don't do interviews, we do discussions. I have a discussion with people, as you call it, conversation with people, and same thing pretty much. We just use two different words, but that's kind of what I've always said. We're going to have a discussion. We're going to discuss a topic or whatever. And you just kind of, you kind of flow with the water, like water, just wherever the conversation takes you. Like me and you've talked about all kinds of stuff already, and we're set to record. Me and you are going to record together, and we're going to do. I'm sure it's going to be a great show, and you're going to talk about your personal experiences, and then I'm going to come on your show on October 26th, right?
Yeah, that's when it's going to air. We're going to record before then, though.
Yeah, before then, but it's going to air October 26th, and I think that's going to be a great show. I'm going to talk about some of my experiences, and we're going to do a crossover. Now, you had gotten in touch with me about that because you had been getting people saying, "Hey, you should go talk to this wacko over there named Josh Turner." I'm just kidding. You're like, who is this wacko? I keep hearing about it. This guy's insane. Let's talk to this. And
I don't listen to a ton of podcasts. So that's one thing people ask me, what podcast should I listen to? I'm like, I don't know. I do so much podcasting myself. I don't really have a whole lot of time to listen to other podcasts. And over the last, I guess, year or so, several times somebody said, you should connect with PTR and,
PRT.
Go on. Or that's one. I'm a little dyslexic. It is what it is. I told you I didn't do my homework. But I just, it's one of those things where it's like you read a message and you open it up and you're like, okay. And then, you forget about it. And I remember that maybe it was like a couple of weeks ago or whatever, somebody messaged me on Instagram, and they said that again. I was like, let me just go look this guy up real quick, and just messaged you on Facebook and got the ball rolling and stuff. Cause I figured if I have to have so many people messaging me about one show, it's probably a good idea if we do something together, connect.
Same here. And I was actually glad that you did, because I kept hearing about the confessionals. And one day I was actually eating, and somebody had mentioned, I was reading it, and I was like, what is the confessionals? And I was thinking that it was some sort of like show, like, you know, but I didn't realize that it was a paranormal type show. And I thought, what are we supposed to, what are they confessing? Like, what, you know? And so I was like, well, I confess that the food that I was eating wasn't very healthy. And I kind of started thinking about it, and I was like, I wonder if that's what he does. People get on there and they confess that they do bad things or something. So I asked this person, I said, what exactly is this? Well, they didn't respond right away. It's one of my listeners. And then right after that, I went home and I went to go look you up. I got a message from another person, 2 in one day. And I looked at it, and it was a female, and it was a female listener, and she said, you got to check out this guy, Tony Merkel. And I was like, okay. And then something came up, didn't even get to sit down, and it was like right around the time I needed to pay bills and everything else, and something came up with my job. Well, while I was out on the job, you actually texted me, I think, the very next day, because I had to work this really long, it was just a big mess going on, you know, and you messaged me, and I said, holy, you know, crap, there it is right there, Tony Merkel. And it was like sort of a weird coincidence or something. I don't know I don't believe in coincidences, but I thought, man, that's crazy. So I need to talk to this guy. So I was actually working out on a post that night, and me and you talked. And you remember me checking in. I had to check in with the guy at the front desk and told you, hey, hang on, Tony, you know. And then we continued our conversation. But that was a long conversation, and it was about just about everything. I mean, I'm talking like, you know, alien abduction, ghosts. I mean, we were talking about all kinds of stuff, and it was just an amazing conversation, and we hit it off right away. And I thought, this guy is like me, but on another podcast. And but you've been doing it longer than me. You've been how long have you been doing the confessionals?
First episode launched January 19th, 2017.
Yeah.
And I have been putting out one show a week since then. And then I also do membership content too and stuff, but every Tuesday we put out a public show for everybody. And we've been doing it for 5 years, you know, and it's been a wild ride. You start something like this. And for me, I didn't take it as, you know, your typical quote unquote hobby. I treated it like a job right away, and I, you know, worked hard like I was punching a clock, trying to figure out how to be a podcaster, what I wanted to be as a podcaster, what I wanted my show to sound like, and you know, just spending a lot of hours figuring stuff out as I went. And it's one of my it's funny you bring up the name of the show, because my wife and I were talking about, you know, some of these new projects I'm working on, and she's like, you always jump on names too fast. I think you should really think about some of the names first. And she's like, the Confessionals was an awful name in more or less words, you know, and it was funny, but I mean, it is what it is at this point. My thought process behind it was the idea of, you know, when you go to a confessional booth, you're talking to a priest about things that you've been through and what you've done and stuff in your life.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, well, the confessionals, they're coming forward and sharing their experiences and what they've been through in life. And I'm here to just kind of listen and chat with them and stuff. So, you know, if maybe I should have been like Paranormal Confessions or Paranormal Confessional Booth or something. I don't know. Maybe I should just scrap confessional altogether and say, hey, it's a paranormal show. Come listen, you know? So maybe be further along in my career if I would have named my show differently. I don't know.
Well, you're doing good. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. The funny thing is, I wasn't the one that said, hey, let's call it Paranormal Round Table. We were brainstorming, and there were 5 of us, and we were all talking, and we got together, and everybody had a different name. And I wanted paranormal. I think I wanted to call it Paranormal Planet or something like that. But I think actually that there's a show now that's called that. But I said, what about Our Haunted Planet? And I think that's a John Keel book or something. And I was like, well, I don't know if I could do that. So we just kept brainstorming, and then we said, well, it's going to be roundtable discussions. Why don't we just call it the Round Table? And then I said, well, we got to call it Paranormal something, you know. Not really thinking that a lot of people that look into cryptids, they don't look at it as paranormal, which I think is weird, because anything out of the realm of normality to me is paranormal. I mean, it's not, it's not, you see Bigfoot on the side of the road. That's not normal. That's, paranormal, and so to me, I thought it was a natural fit. And then I said, I don't know, maybe that'll work. And so we started looking at it, and I thought, man, this is kind of weird. I don't know if I like it, but then it just stuck. And now it rolls off the tongue, PRT. Confessionals, obviously, it was weird though, that a couple people had messaged me, when I was busy running around doing things, trying to get, and then having to work and everything else. And then like the next day, or maybe it was a day, it was right after that you sent me a message and said, hey, we should collaborate. And so I guess our listeners kind of brought us together because both sides were like, hey, you people need to get together. You got something that's very similar. And I think it'll be a very beneficial thing. And another thing I want to say too, recently someone made a video about, how people doing what we do shouldn't get paid. And I wanted to say something about that. I mean, I believe if you're doing something, spending your time to bring people information that's entertaining, that's whatever it is, that, I don't understand. It's basically a job. This is my second job. My wife calls it my jobby. Now, your wife and my wife are very similar, that it's become like Tony and Lindsay, right? And for me, it's Josh and Nellie, everybody, and so I wanted to give people the green light too, to send my wife their stories too. She's got so many friends on Facebook and Messenger, and she, if you want to send her your stories, be my guest, because we are trying. It's sifted to go through them all. It takes a lot of work. And if it's just you and your wife doing it, God bless you, because I have about 4 or 5 people helping me, and we're still behind. So yeah, and so
it's just us, and
oh my gosh.
I was just talking to my wife about tonight and stuff, because I mean, I keep my circle very, very tight and close, and
smart.
But I was talking to her about it tonight, and I told her, I said, I think what we're going to do, and we've never done this before, I think we're going to put up one of those auto reply messages that just tells people that, we got your email, and we will get back to you, but
it's hard.
It is hard. I mean, she within my first year of podcasting, she took over the emails and my scheduling and my social media. And when we first started podcasting, we didn't have any kids. And then a year into it, my son was born, and we have my daughter too. And so she's running around after a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. My son's gonna be 4 in December, and it's like, it's hard, and she's stressing. And I went upstairs for dinner tonight, and she's standing there at the counter with her laptop, going over these emails, asking me questions and stuff. And I told her, I said, you need to have a cut time. She's like, I gotta get these done. Like, you need to have a cut time. You cannot just be, stressing over trying to get all the emails in every day, because, if other things fall by the side, then things that are probably more important, And so I just told her, we're going to probably put up that little auto reply, just so people know that, listen, we got your email, but due to the influx of emails, we're just letting you know, be patient with us, So.
Yeah. And Tony, you're a very nice guy. Another thing I like about Tony is what you see is what you get. You're very pragmatic. You're a very pragmatic person. I mean, I could just see you being a person that just lives by that. And so there's I don't feel or get any kind of underhandedness or like, you're not one of those people that's deceitful. And that's another reason why you have a strong fan base, because you are who you are and you do what you do, and you avoid drama as best you can. I've seen that. You're just a very easygoing guy, and if something goes down, you're like you said, I'm just done. That's it. And I think it's ridiculous who you've decided to do this full time. I still have a large business or a large company to run, and I do other side things too. But you are doing this full time, and I can't imagine just that being my only job, because you have to really struggle at this, to really make a living at it. You are a couple years ahead of me. I started in April of 2019. I was on other people's shows, a few other shows, but one in particular. But I did a lot of research. I didn't have a podcast. And then in 2019, I decided to do it. And I thought, I need to correspond with people who've been doing this. I wish I would have corresponded with you and Wes way before, I'm talking about Wes Germer, ladies and gentlemen,
Yes.
who does Sasquatch Chronicles, who's actually very good friends with Tony. And, but of course I was waved away from you guys because y'all weren't, whatever. And I regret that, because I just never gave it a second thought. And then I was like I said, I was eating one day. I was on the run, doing stuff with my nephew, and we were for work. And I was like, what is the confessionals? And I was like, I've heard this before. And I was like, oh yeah, because toward the beginning of my career, somebody had told me about you, like way back, and it hit me, And so it was an honor and finally to get to meet you, the great Tony Merkel, and talk to you, because I was like, this is a guy who I respect. You've established yourself and made a name for yourself, and it's a good one. You have a good reputation. There's nobody out there that has anything really negative to say. So that's a good thing.
I'm sure there's some people, but like, you're not going to get 100% on everything. Listen, I just do what I do. I stay in my lane, and I have fun doing what I do. I don't worry about what other people are doing. And to a fault sometimes, in the sense that I'm really bad with networking. And we've talked about that before. I mean, so many people, because you clearly are much better at, introducing yourself to people. Me, before I started podcasting, I was really heavily involved in the Bigfoot community on Facebook, when Facebook wasn't what it is now. And, I just, I made this transition into podcasting, but coming from seeing how toxic the communities can get, I just made this decision that I was going to kind of just do my thing and just stay in my lane and kind of have blinders on. And so I had some friends pop up along the way, but for the most part, it's just been me. and I kind of like it like that. I this year I decided to make a more conscious decision to take opportunities to, network with people when the opportunity arises, where before I would just kind of just let it, whatever, just let it go, and, just keep doing my thing. But, there's something to be said about introducing yourself to people that are in the same industry as you, and at least just saying hi, and I just never made a habit of just saying hi to people. It was just, if you want to talk to me, feel free to reach out, but I'm probably not going to make that first effort, Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you did with me. I really appreciate that. It was quite an honor.
Yeah. I was listening to, I think it was probably in January this year. I think I was listening to Higher Side Chats, and he was doing a show on the future of podcasting. And it was very, very interesting. And at the end of the show, he mentioned what I just said. Like, he's kind of secluded, and he was going to start trying to, reach out and just kind of be friendly with more people and stuff. And I don't know, it's just something, the way he said it kind of hit me. And I was like, you know what? He's probably right. And I should probably do something similar. And it wasn't, smooth sailing, and it wasn't something that I did right away, because I'm just a naturally guarded person. Like I said, I keep my circle very tight, and, to a fault, because not a whole lot of people know me, I guess. So, but it is what it is. I'm just rambling now. Conversationalist, right? Yeah.
Well, we had some great conversations, and one of the things I was gonna mention is, before we go, I want you to, Tony, you had something happen recently, and I wanted you to tell the audience a little bit about that, because you have a video coming out. We talked about it earlier today. It's very interesting. Would you like to touch on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mentioned earlier about how I'm pursuing other endeavors. So for the last almost 5 years now, I've pretty much ignored YouTube. I had a YouTube channel, and it slowly grew, but I decided that I was going to start trying with YouTube, and kind of create more of a video content for people. And so one of the things, obviously, is uploading my archive, which I'm still working on. I got like 120 some episodes I still got to do. But the other things were, I came up with this show called Legion of Legends, and it was just basically a concept of going out and looking for the things that we've heard about on the show before. I don't lie to people. I've never had a Bigfoot encounter. I've never had a dogman encounter. Or, I've never seen these things. I believe they exist because I talked to so many people who have seen these things and had these encounters. I do believe they exist. And so, the concept was pretty simple. And at first it was just going to be more of like an action vlog type thing where me and my brother, we're going to basically film ourselves going out, doing things, put it together in an entertaining format and put it on YouTube. And that's what we were doing. And we put some of the videos out. We still have some more to produce. But then, another opportunity arose where I have access to a couple of guys who have, professionally produced high quality video content for big companies. And they wanted to work with me, and I had built a team, and we went to Kentucky to hunt for the dogman last week. And we went down there, and it was a fascinating journey we went on. And I'll say this before I go any further. I came back a different person, and not a worse person. Not like I'm not the same Tony, but I do feel like part of me, and I don't know how. This is more not even to do with podcasting or paranormal or anything like that, but there's a part of me that needed to die, and it died in Kentucky, and I brought a new piece of me home, and I came home refreshed, rejuvenated, feeling like I literally can control my own destiny. And I wish more people would feel that way with their lives. You go through phases where you feel like life kind of just is what it is. It's on default mode. But if you can get out of that rut, and I've been in ruts throughout my life, but something about Kentucky got me out of some kind of rut where I just felt more rejuvenated. You really can make your life into whatever you want it to be. Back in the day, I would say in the 90s, Steve Jobs was doing an interview, and obviously people have heard horror stories about working for him, but one thing for sure is the guy was a visionary. And one of the things he said is that life's like a bubble, but what you find out is when you push your finger into the bubble, it doesn't pop. You actually find out what's on the other side. Mm-hmm. And like that's just kind of how I try to live my life. And when I went to Kentucky, I felt like I pushed part of that bubble, and I came home finding out what was on the other side, finding out that there's a whole other part of me that I didn't know existed. And so we went to Kentucky, and we had a game plan for we were down there. We did 4 or 5 days, and we had a lot of different things. Like the first day we were out there, we went to a location where there was a Bigfoot or a dogman sighting. And the guy who was doing the tracking, he found within like the first 15 minutes, we're walking through the woods, and he finds a very large canine print. And we trying to see if it was a cat print or a canine print, and it was kind of hard to say either way for 100% definite. But whatever made this print was very big, and if it was a cat, it was a big cat. And, supposedly there's no mountain lion in Kentucky. They say that for Pennsylvania too. But, so if it was a mountain lion, it would be a very unusually large mountain lion in the area. From what I understand, the Pacific Northwest gets 250 pound cats. This print would have been well within that range. And so, we found this print, and the tracker, he believed that it was a canine print, and I'm inclined to believe him. We had some other things pop up here and there. There was little bizarre things, knocking sounds, trees coming down. But the one day we were going deep into the forest, and we get to this point where me and another guy head up a hillside, and we were looking for a water spot that we might be able to put a game trail up or game cam up, because we figured, maybe something would come in there to, drink the water or whatever. And we were probably about 20 feet up the hillside, no more than 20 feet. And the rest of my team just yelled for me, come back down here, come back down here. So we come back down and they're like, did you hear that? And I'm like, no, what? And they were shocked that we didn't hear what they experienced. But the first guy up in the line, Joel, he came around this turn and there was a tree, probably I would say around 50 feet in front of him. And he said the whole tree and everything around the tree just started shaking violently. And and he looked back at Christian and asked Christian if he saw it. And Christian then looks up behind Joel as this tree and stuff are doing it again. And from what they described, it was a tree. I'm 6 feet. So kind of just put it in perspective as far as like how long my arms might be. This is a tree that I wouldn't be able to fit my arms around. And it was a sizable tree. And they said it just shook like crazy. And when this happened, some of the guys had this like really deep, overwhelming sensation inside their bodies, like of I wouldn't want to call it fear, but maybe oppression. There was some kind of oppression, but it was very interesting. And if people are listening right now, watching this, chances are there's at least some of you who have recently, within the last week or so, saw a video that surfaced of a drone where there's this tree shaking violently in the woods. It's actually a video that was out several years ago. It's making a comeback, and people are saying it's new. It's not. It's older. Interesting, but older. Well, when we got home, the guys that experienced this, one of the guys saw the video and he sent it to us. And he's like, "That's what we saw. That's what happened to us." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "How did I not hear this?" You know. And so it was a very bizarre experience. We went back to that place in the middle of the night. We were out there till I think 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, doing stuff. The guys experienced some more stuff. Again, I missed it, but they did experience it. We'll cover it in the documentary. And the last day there, it was probably about 5:30 in the evening, and we were taking down game cams, and we were down to 3 guys on the crew at this point, and 2 of the guys were kind of out looking around, and I was retrieving the cameras. And I come short of even, like, I have a hard time even saying this because I question what I saw. But it was one of those things where, you're in a forest that has heavy dogman activity. You're in a location that had some really bizarre experiences happening for your team. And so I go to this tree to take the camera down, and I do one of those scans behind me, just to see if there's anything behind me. And it was one of those things where I'm turning my head back towards the tree that has the camera on it. And as I'm doing that, for a split second, as my head's turning, I see what I think I saw. If that's the best way I can say it. It looked like some kind of gray head going up the hillside, and it probably covered about a span of 5 feet in the time that I was turning my head. And I jerked my head back to look, and I don't see it at all. I called the guy over. The one guy went into that area, searching up and down the hill. He didn't see anything. I think he actually did talk about seeing some kind of like nesting area back there later in the documentary. But it was one of those things where I really wish I could say I saw a Bigfoot or a dog man, but it was so fast that I'm like, wasn't my brain playing tricks on me or what? I don't know. But another thing that happened at this location, this specific location, that day that those trees were shaking hard, another person saw, and I'm standing there right next to him, 2 of the guys we sent off around the hillside. They went pretty far away to go on the other side of this hill to see if whatever shook that tree is on that side, if they could push it back. My other guy is going up through the hillside through these fallen trees. And me and this other fella are standing there kind of just observing things. And he's like, "Do you see that?" And I was like, "See what?" And this is right after, within like I'd say 20-minute period of the tree shaking, he's like, there's eye shine on the hill. And then this is broad daylight. And he's like, there's eye shine right there. And I'm thinking, eye shine? Like, how? Why? You know? And I'm looking and I'm not seeing it at first. And then I see it. And it wasn't two eyes. It was, he kept calling it eye shine. The best way I could describe it is it looked like somebody was about 50 feet away from us, pointing a small LED flashlight at us, flicking it on and off at us. And this is broad daylight, sunny day. I hadn't seen any debris out there as far as litter go. This is an area that's not heavily traveled at all. Because I mean, my first thought was, is there like a balloon in the tree flickering in the sunlight or something? But it wasn't even windy. There was no breeze, so like the leaves weren't moving. But I see this flickering, and I'm walking towards it. I'm walking closer. It had me hypnotized. I just had to keep going. No, I'm just kidding. It didn't have me hypnotized, but I kept walking towards it, trying to see where this was coming from. As I would get closer, I would lose sight of it, where you wouldn't think I would lose sight of it. I mean, it just seemed like, I don't know. It just seemed like it was going on. It was flicking on and off. Then it would be off for a little bit, and then it'd go on and off for a little bit. It just seemed like, I don't know what it was. It was just very strange. It's not the first time I ever saw lights out in the woods before, but this was different. It wasn't. I wouldn't want to call it an orb. Like people talk about seeing orbs in the woods and, you know, all that stuff, but I don't know what it was. All I know is, to me, it looked like it was somebody. Imagine if there's somebody there with a magic cloak on where they were invisible, but they had a flashlight they were flicking on and off at you. That's what it seemed like. And people talk about the different aspects of all this stuff. I earlier this year, I interviewed a guy. We called the show The Predator, because he was an outlaw. I mean, he was part of a 1% biker gang. He got kicked out of the gang for his bad behavior, believe it or not. And he starts his own gang, and he winds up, running from the law, and he winds up spending, I think he said 9 months on his girlfriend's dad's property in Indiana. And twice he saw this thing. And the last time it scared him so bad that what he saw was, best described was, it was some kind of cloaked monster in the woods. And it scared him so bad that he called his mom to come pick him up. And she said, the police have been at the house 3 times this week. And he said, I don't care. Come pick me up. And she came, picked him up, and he went to jail. He got taken to jail. He'd rather be in jail than be on that property. And when we were experiencing this stuff out in the woods, that's what I kept thinking about. Because I'm thinking to myself, you guys didn't see anything? No, we didn't see anything. The tree just shook violently several times. But you didn't see anything? No, we didn't see anything. Then I'm out there, I'm seeing this light flickering. Did you see anything? No, just the light. Nothing. No, broad daylight. I don't see anything. And I don't know. I don't know what all this stuff is about. I think we all have our own ideas and theories, and I think that's good and healthy. But for me personally, I'm very hesitant to say I know what things are, because my mind has changed on so many things since I started the show. Like I went into the show with perspectives on things, but that was before I've talked to hundreds and hundreds of people about their experiences, and probably thousands at this point.
Yeah,
and
me too.
So like, my perspectives and my opinions on things have shifted over time. And I think that's a good thing. And you start seeing patterns that arrive through people's stories. And sometimes it's, a Bigfoot story and a haunting story and an abduction story. And they all have something in common. And it's like, there's a trait, and it's just like, you start thinking like, what are we freaking dealing with right now? Like, what are we, like, what is this? And so I really try to, like, I always tell people that listen to my show that I want them to think outside the box. But when they finally starting to think outside the box with things, just don't settle with those thoughts, because then what you wind up doing is building a box around the box you just came out of.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Don't box your box in. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
And so I just I really try to encourage people to be free thinkers. It's okay to think for yourself, and not let other people tell you what to think. And if you think something completely different than most of the people around you in these communities and stuff, awesome. Talk about it. And if people shout you down about it, find somebody who will listen to you.
That's right.
Because none of us can say for certain we know exactly. Like Josh, you and I were talking, and you mentioned to me how you at one time in your life thought the dog man was something specific, and then you hear another aspect of the story of your encounter that you shared with other people, and the new aspect of that story, you start thinking, maybe I don't know, or maybe my original thoughts were maybe a little misleading, and so it's just being flexible and understanding that, you know, we don't know what we're dealing with. If we did know what we were dealing with, none of us would be here, because there would be no mystery in it. But people are experiencing things, and we can't just let ourselves say, well, I think Bigfoot is this, so it has to be this. I think Dogman is this, so it has to be this. Or my particular worldview is this, which means that I can't believe this. Like there's got to be ways for you to work around things mentally. And I think sometimes the biggest thing for us is to unplug from other people's opinions, whether it's, you know, the mainstream media, to, you know, other people in these kind of industries and how they view perspectives. Like, just give your brain some time to breathe and just ask yourself, like, what do I think? Like, what you know, you start with the basics, like what your worldview is. What, you know, you had, you know, the first half of your show was a lot of the theological perspective talk. Like, if you just start with that basic of what is the foundation of your root beliefs, and then just start going from there and start considering different things. And when something clashes with the foundation of what you believe in, go back and say, okay, how could this be possible if my foundation is this? And then you start looking at the foundation, not that you have to change the foundation, but you start saying, is there another piece of my foundation that I'm missing, that I didn't know was there yet? And you just start building this house. And it's just very important in my mind for people to not just say it's just a final thing. There's a guy, Dr. Michael Heiser, who really helped me shape a lot of my perspectives. And he's a theologian. He knows like 9 dead languages. He's one of the guys that is called in to interpret, you know, these manuscripts. And this guy wasn't raised in a Christian household. He became a Christian when he was 16 years old, at his friend's house at a Bible study the family was doing. He had no background in Christian theology, but he was the kind of person that on his study hall, he wouldn't just, you know, draw on a notepad or flirt with a girl. He was reading encyclopedias. He was a nerd, and he just read all this kind of stuff. And I don't mean nerd like disrespectfully. I just, you know, imagery wise, like, no,
I was a nerd jock. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, like, I mean, so. But it's like that's how his mind works. That's probably a better way of framing it. His mind works that way, where it's like he wants to be educated always. And so when he shifted his worldview theologically into the Christian perspective, he was already geared for the studying, and he became a world-renowned theologian. And he makes waves all the time because he says things that just are not popular in the Christian American circles. Like, for instance, in Psalm 82, the very first verse, it says, God held judgment amongst other gods. Yeah. And when you read that in the Hebrew, the original text, it says Elohim held judgment among the Elohim. There is no way around it, he says, that other than saying that God held judgment amongst other gods. Mm-hmm. And he said that doesn't mean that we throw out monotheism. He said it means that there is a hierarchy that we just aren't traditionally taught. Another thing is, I think it's it's either 1st or 2nd Samuel. I think chapter 18 in one of those books. It's talking about King Saul and the Witch of Endor, and how Saul outlawed necromancy, and then his prophet Samuel was dead. He needed answers, so he goes to the Witch of Endor and he asks her to summon the dead spirit of Samuel. And she initially says, "No, I can't do that. It's been outlawed." And then he reveals himself and says, "I am the king. Do what I say." She's like, "Oh, okay, I'll do it." And so she summons, let's just say, a spirit. Traditionally, what I've come to know and understand in my conventional teachings that I've been taught is that she summoned a demon or whatever. I mean demon, not demoned. And so like that's the traditional thought. But he brings a good point up. He says nowhere in the passage does it say that, and he talks to something, and whatever he's talking to tells him that he's going to die, I think the next day, and then he dies. And demons aren't omnipotent. They don't know the future. They're not God. They know what's written. They know what prophecies say, but they don't know what, they don't know, Josh, when you're going to die. They don't know when I'm going to die. They don't know the next time I'm going to take a dump on the toilet. They don't know these things. Yeah. Like unless I say, man, I got to go. So like it provides a very unique situation within the canonized scripture that makes you scratch your head, because typically speaking, we're taught to believe that as Christians, I should say, that, there's angels, there's demons. That's it. If you die, you either go to heaven or hell. There's no middle ground. But at the very least, if what I just said is true, which is what I got from Dr. Heiser, so blame him if it's not true. But at the very least, you can say if that is true and that he did talk to the dead spirit of Samuel, at the very least, you can say that in some situations, then God allows things that maybe he wouldn't typically allow. You can maybe get away with that, right? Maybe. But then you go back to the idea that throughout the entire Bible, God does forbid necromancy. And, last time I checked, God never came to me and said, "Tony, listen, man, I really don't want you to go down to Center City, Philadelphia tomorrow, picking up that skyscraper and throwing it into the ocean." Like, he's not telling me things that are impossible to do, And so when God's forbidding such things so much, well, it's not because it's not impossible. It's because you're not supposed to do it. And so I just look at that kind of stuff and I'm like, okay, and that's where I just come off and I'm just like, face value, got it, cool. And I'm open for discussion on things. I'm open for other people's opinions. And that's just kind of how I approach my show. I've had Satanists on my show. I just like a month ago, I had a witch on my show, like a hardcore witch. Like he was
telling me about that.
Yeah, he was like hardcore witch. And I just talk with people, and they contact me. So like I'm like, okay, well, if they want to talk to me, I'm down with talking to them. You know what I mean? And just see where things go. I just think that we're kind of taught through our culture today to segregate ourselves with only people that we're supposed
think
to
like
agree.
We do.
Yeah. And that is wrong on so many levels. And really kind of giving into the cultural system that we find ourselves in. So I just encourage people to entertain conversation with all types of people, whether you agree with them or not, because that's how we grow. You're going to walk away. Most of the time, you're going to walk away from a conversation thinking, yeah, I still don't agree with them, but you held that conversation and you were exposed to other viewpoints and you gain that way. Mm-hmm. And right now, people aren't seeing the benefits in gaining through conversation with people that they don't agree with. And that's on everything. So, all right, I'm handing it back to you, Josh. I'm done rambling again.
No, you're not. No, it was very interesting what and what we talked about. One thing I was going to say, going back in the conversation from earlier, when you were talking about the dog and the cat prints, I want to tell my audience this. I'm not a tracker, but the first 15 years of my life I spent in the sticks before I moved to the barrio. parents splitting up, stuff like that. But anyway, the dog print, an easy way to remember this is if you see a print, they can look very similar. The dog print is going to have the claws out. You're going to see the little points coming off of the print. A cat print's not going to have that. The cat print, because cats they have retractable claws. So when they walk, they don't have their claws out, which is actually a benefit because, for one thing, their claws are very sharp and powerful, and they're built to use them as weapons. And so it keeps them from snagging on everything. If you could just watch a house cat, you can see how they retract their claws and they pull them in, whereas dogs don't. If you see a very, very large canine print about this size and you see the claws out on it, you know that's probably that's old Shuck or it's a dog man or something. I mean, I'm just telling you the absolute truth. I had an incident. I'll tell you a quick story. Everybody's always asking me to tell stories. I was working out by the lake, and Tony, this is crazy. The sheriff's department back in 2007 or I think it was 2008, something like that. They came and they were flyering, and one of the most ludicrous things I've ever heard in my life, and I've heard a lot of ludicrous things, believe me. This deputy sheriff was giving his spiel about what it was, and I had a security company, and I had a lot of very lucrative accounts out there. These people were millionaires that I actually worked for. And so they wouldn't even deal with the police. They'd be like, go talk to my security guy. So they had me go out there and talk to them. And so they told me, well, you need to give all your clients these papers to be on the lookout for a pack of very large coyotes that killed a horse. I looked at this guy, Scorpion. He's actually Scorpion. I know you remember this. You and Diablo's my brother's nickname. Y'all are probably both in the chat here. I know you remember this because you were there. I think Bones was there too. We all have nicknames from back in the day. We switched sides, Tony. We were kind of bad guys, and then we said, hey, we could be really helpful as good guys, so we became good guys. So, anyways, the police are talking to me, and and this guy, I could tell he doesn't even believe what he's saying. And I said, sir, where are you from? He said, I'm from Lexington, Texas. I said, okay, Lexington, Texas. I know exactly where that is. He told me where he lived. It was actually, a few miles down the road from where I used to live. And I said, oh, really? Post Oak? I said, you know that a pack of coyotes did not kill this thoroughbred horse. And he's like, well, that's the official story. And this is, what we're, he's flying. And so I took the flyer and I was like, okay. And the land that was right down the road from where we were at. So I got in my truck. I left, I can't remember who it was, my cousin Bo or Scorpion or one of you guys. I know my brother went with me. But we took off down the road. There were three of us. And I said, well, I told Miss Blackie, the person who's working for us, I'll be back. I'm going to go investigate this. So when we got over there, okay, I talked to the person that owned the horse. This woman said that they took pictures of the tracks that were like this big. Okay. She put her hands up like a softball. Okay. She said that there was not multiple tracks like a coyote, like a pack did this. It was a single animal or creature. And I said, do you mind if I go and I look around, where so she said, go ahead. So we found like the blood, whatever. This isn't like a great, interesting story or anything because we didn't find anything because they had walked all over the tracks. So there were like boot imprints everywhere. That's all it was. Okay. Why you wouldn't take pictures of this and do better police, I have no freaking idea. I mean, it was just ridiculous. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. And the animal was gone, and all you saw was the blood and whatever that was still there. Didn't get any tracks. Then the next day, or a couple days later, I called a game warden, called in a favor from a game warden friend of mine, and he says, well, that was actually a mountain lion that did that. And I said, I almost said his name. I said, do you really believe that? Okay, and he goes, no. I said, why'd you, that's because that's what they're saying now. So it went from being a pack of coyotes that killed this horse, and it wasn't the only animal that had been killed out there. There was a rash of animals, cats missing, dogs missing. There was a story out there that was told to us of a very large coyote wolf-like creature that snatched up someone's dog. We did have mountain lions out there, and now Scorpion, you're in the chat. Yeah, Scorpion just said it's like they did what they could to cover it up. Now I know you remember this, Scorp. I left you out there one night, and you heard these mountain lions going back and forth. You being from Montopolis and the east side of Austin, you didn't know what that was. And when I came back, you told me what you heard. I said those are mountain lions, and there were two of them going back and forth out of the canyons. And we knew that it wasn't coyotes. Now there was a large pack of coyotes out there, and I think that was it was ironically enough, there was a pack of coyotes out there. I ran into them, but I looked at these and I thought, there's no way they're going to kill that horse. The horse was huge. It was a very large horse, and I was like, there's no way that's what did this. I'm not saying that it was a dog man that jumped on this horse and killed it, but from the description, and I was not privy to any pictures or anything like that, and Scorp says, I still hate you for that. Scorp, I didn't know the mountain lions were there, okay, until I heard them, okay. Anyways, this homeowner, that they moved. They were like, we're leaving. This is, our animals are being killed. They're not doing anything about it. Might have been a mountain lion, but it would have had to have been a very large and powerful animal to have done this. So I asked the woman originally about the tracks. I said, what kind of tracks were they? And she described a wolf track to a T. And I was like, okay, that tells you right there. Okay, there was no doubt in my mind at that point. I was like, that's what it was. So, I mean, even a very large dire wolf wouldn't have been able to do that to that horse. Yeah. There was also a donkey that was attacked, a burro, and the back part of it had been like clawed or something. The tracks were not cougar tracks. They were not mountain lion tracks. Then 6 months later, they found a dead mountain lion in a tree. What was that?
That's interesting.
Yeah, one ran right in front of me and Scorpion. We were driving, doing our rounds at this place where we were at in the middle of the night. Now, Scorpion, I know you remember that. It ran right in front of the truck. I mean, it was a small one. It was a juvenile, because I believe that its mother was killed. The official story was that a male cougar had just gone crazy and decided to kill all these animals, and then it killed the female and put her up in a tree. I was just like, are you kidding me? This is the most ridiculous story. A lot of weird stuff happened while we were out there, too. I mean, there was a lot of weird stuff going on. I mean, it was bizarre. I'm not kidding. They found, like, weird stuff in the lake, and I don't know. I just, I could go on and on. There was just a lot of weird stuff, and I don't believe that it was a mountain lion at work. I saw a wolf-like creature that came out of the woods. I'm not saying this was totally like a canine, like a wolf, like it looked like a red wolf, and it was very large. And I was like, wow, that's cool. That's a red wolf. And I looked it up, and I was like, that has to be what that was. And it was out there just by itself, whatever. It wasn't doing anything. But we were way out there, it's way out there by the lake. And what got me was that this was going on for about 4 or 5 months, and then it just abruptly stopped. And so I don't know what it was that was doing it. I don't know what killed that other cat. I don't know what killed that horse or attacked that donkey. And so we never did get any official anything, So yeah, that's a weird story. But that track, if you had a tracker worth his salt, he could tell you exactly what that was. And just by looking at the prints, the claws, and Tony, that's really what happened. It kind of changed your perspective on things, I guess. But they're out there. Kentucky and Wisconsin, to me, for my money, are the two hotbed. I think Michigan being a third. Then you have probably Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas rounding it out. I think those are the main places. I think Ohio has a lot of different weird stuff. And I have a guy that's going to come on one day and talk about some weird stuff involving the Amish community, you know, and there's a lot of weird stuff. The magic that they do, powwow. You know, there's the guy. There's some kids that worked for. They weren't kids. There's a little bit younger than me, but they were kids because they weren't worldly. They didn't understand about the world, and they worked for us. And I know Scorpion, you remember them, and I know my brother probably does too. And they talked about how there was a type of what they call the spirit, like an elemental type spirit that had like a dog-like head that they were able to conjure up. It was like an avatar though, like a you know what I mean, like. But it could be used to strike down livestock and things like that. Now, I had already knew those people whenever I did this little makeshift investigation that I went down there and I did. And the people in that area trusted me more than they did the police, because the police never did anything. They were just like, oh, what's up, you know, and then that was it. But oh yeah, donkeys do deserve respect. Whatever that donkey survived. The donkey probably kicked the crap out of it and said there's easier prey. But you know, these people that were going through this, they were like, this should not be happening. You know, this is ridiculous, you know, and I agreed. And then of course, to make things easier for law enforcement, well, we'll just make up a story. I mean, let's just say that this is what happened, because it's easier to do that than to tell what really happened. You know, it's just it's crazy. And so when you go out into the woods, it's not the zoo, you know, and you don't know what you're going to find. And, you know, you have like Kentucky, it's built on, I've said this a million times, it's built on a cave system. I believe that there are different things going on there. And I think that one of them could be a flesh and blood creature that's coming up out of there and attacking people. And I believe those ones in Kentucky are extremely violent and dangerous. I promise you that I believe that these are bad things. I don't think that those are the normal Timberwolf looking dog man like the one I saw. I think that what those things are a type of devil monkey. I call them that because I think that's what they are. And like I've said before on the show, I dumped a story that I didn't believe was too fantastical by teenagers that said, hey, this happened to us. And I thought, mentiras, you're out there drinking. That's why, you know, so you're drunk. That's why that happened. But no, I should never have dumped that story. But it was years later now you got Roger that came on my show and told the story about the LBL and the killings that happened in the LBL, which is Kentucky, and talking about how they were these two wolf-looking creatures, but they had like weird-looking legs, not like the backward bent wolf legs you hear about in Dogman. And we'll discuss that, Tony, when I come on your show. I'll talk all about my research and what happened to me, and I'll tell your audience all about that. So tune in on the 26th, folks, to the confessionals to hear the rest of what I'm going to talk about. But yeah, you're fortunate that you didn't. That nothing happened. What the heck is going on? That's weird. You're fortunate. I hate when these lights are spooky here. We're talking about stuff and like, woo. So you know, they're fortunate that nothing happened to you, and I'm glad nothing did. Now, before Tony left, he had talked to me. I mean, maybe like a day or two before. You were nervous about the trip. You were kind of apprehensive. And you wanted prayer and everything, and it was absolutely. I mean, you're going into the unknown of a place where something could happen, and you had a witness with you. I believe he was with you, right? And something had happened to him, and of course there was all kinds of stuff behind that. But it was just one of those things where you were telling me, should I be afraid? And I was like, maybe, at least be very leery, of what you're going to encounter, because for years people would ask me, well, I did the story of the Hernandez Ranch. Me and my team, we worked with these people, and so we all knew them, and I can't take full credit for it. We were all involved in that investigation, but they were like, come out to the ranch. I'm like, no. And finally I did. But I didn't want, and I wasn't there at night either. I mean, they told me, oh, you'll probably see one at night. I was like, I don't want to see one. I've already seen it. I don't need to know. The descriptions you're giving me are exactly what I saw. Okay. I don't need to see it again. And I was very adamant about that. And, my buddy, I call him Jerry. It's not his real name, but, Jerry was like, yeah, it's smart. He goes, I don't like being here at night. I mean, it's like, and so most of them have left now in that area, and they've sold part of that land to another group of people who are now going, this is not a good idea. I bought this land. They were told Jerry's uncle told them, look, we have these weird creatures on the property. You know what they said? Oh, I don't care about no creatures. From Santa, I'm from, I think they said they're from Santa Barbara. Well, I'm from Santa Barbara. I've seen enough weird stuff down there, Go to Venice Beach, you'll see weird creatures. Then they bought the property. Now they're like, please, these things are all over the place and they're bad, Okay, you were told, you were warned, So when you go into these places, you enter at your own risk. And I applaud you, Tony, for going in there and being brave and doing what you did. But I don't suggest anybody, going into these hotbed areas, especially if you're going alone, like Lyle Blackburn, a very, very good friend of mine. I'm very close with Lyle. What he said last night kind of bothered me, that he likes to go out and investigate alone. And Barton, luckily on the show last night, told him, hey, buddy, I'll go with you. And he goes, I'll trust you to go with me, And Lyle said he would go with me too. But, I'm rocking these guns, so why wouldn't you? No, I'm just kidding, dude. Seriously, these guns are going to get ripped off if you're fighting with these creatures. That's not going to help you. You're going to need this, that might maybe help you. I don't know. And a lot of spiritual armor. But the thing is, it kind of bothered me to think about Lyle out there in the LBL going around by himself. I'm thinking, man, come on, dude. I mean, I know Falk Monster, the Boggy Creek, that's one thing, but this thing, Kentucky, whew, man, you talk about going into Wisconsin, Michigan, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, these kind of places, I'm not going without people. I just won't do it. I don't care what you could tell me right now, Wolf, you'll be set for life. I'll give you millions of dollars. Go walk around, in those areas by yourself for a week, drop you off, whatever. Nope. Would I spend a week in the Hernandez Ranch for $40 million? No, I would not. I just would not do it. I will not do it. Did I spend 4 hours there? Yes, and it was uncomfortable. And I heard noises, and I did not like. Am I a scaredy person? No. I coach people how to box. I teach them how to kill, how to kickbox, how to, strike hard, strike fast. I'm just kidding. That's Cobra Kai. But you know what I mean? I'm teaching my, But they ask me all the time, well, would you, you're as big as a Bigfoot. You're 6'4", you weigh 345 pounds, you're a big guy. Who cares? I've seen one of these things, the Dogman. I haven't seen Bigfoot, but I saw the Dogman. There's nothing in my mind that tells me, oh yeah, I can kick its butt. Let's do that, because I know this thing will rip my head off and just turn me upside down and turn me into a pretzel, because that thing looked like it could have killed 100 soldiers. No problem. And I may have been a 15-year-old. Now somebody tried to tell me that's the 15-year-old mind telling you that. Bull crap. I still think the same way 30 years later as I did then. The only thing that like I told you, Tony, was information came to me 29 years later that made me think, hey, maybe this thing wasn't flesh and blood all the way. But what I saw was manifesting as physical, and it was manipulating things physical. And if I were to be stupid enough to try to go up to it and be like, come on, let's throw some chingazos, man, I lose every time, hands down. I mean, it's going to kill you. So, when you were going into the mouth of danger, I was really concerned for you, and I was glad to hear you came back. It did change you, though, like you said.
Yeah, it definitely changed me. The way I've heard these stories about Dogman, just the sheer speed that they can move at. I mean, I don't like, even if you, because I mean, Josh, you look like you probably could match their strength in an arm wrestling match, but they move too fast. Yeah. I mean, they'll be behind you, snapping your neck before you can blink.
There's no chance.
I just, I'm not going to do this. I don't do this stuff by myself. I have a crew of guys that come with me. And, for me, it's, I think there's something to be said about doing stuff independently from the ground up. And you see a lot of this stuff on the TV, and not that it's wrong or anything. It's just you have so many hurdles to go through when it comes to, production companies and what their mission is out there. And if something else happens, are they going to cover it? And all those kind of things really happen behind the scenes with TV stuff. I mean, if you have a show about Bigfoot and you come across a Dogman, or you come across a water serpent that isn't supposed to exist, they're probably not going to put it in the show because it's a Bigfoot show. And so there's something to be said about doing this kind of stuff independently, where we're going out there, we're trying to be as safe as possible, but we're doing it for documentation purposes. We're trying to put on a very high quality product for people, so that it's not just oh, here's what we found in a vlog format, but it's really, it's going to be highly produced and hopefully beneficial for people, where they walk away educated, inspired, and entertained. And if we document something for real, hopefully, I don't know, hopefully YouTube doesn't take it down. I don't know, but I'm sure there's issues there that arise, but I don't know. I just feel like doing this the way we're doing it from the ground up, nobody controls us. We're just going out there and trying to find truth in these matters, and more so uncover things that maybe most of the world doesn't believe exist, and show the world that these things do exist. And here are the oddities that we came across on this trip. And no, we didn't bring home a head of a dog man, but there were really bizarre things that happened that, if you spend your whole life, and I keep referring to Philadelphia because that's what the area I'm from. But if you spend your whole life in the city, you can't even fathom. The world is very strange. There's a lot of unknown things out there, and there's a lot of things that we can't explain happening. And that's kind of where we come in with what we're doing, but also all us podcasters, YouTubers that do this kind of stuff. I mean, we're just trying to expose these stories and let people share them, but also allow a listening audience that may never have heard of such things hear that, hey, the world you live in, it's weird. It's very weird. And we don't got it all figured out,
Yeah. Yeah. Tony, I'm going to let you go, man, and I'm going to wrap it up. But you host of Confessionals, thank you for coming on and talking. And like I said, folks, with Paul Anthony Wallace earlier, we're going to do who knows how long we're going to record for. I don't know what we're going to do because we have a lot to talk about. Me and Tony got a lot to talk about, and I've talked to both of these gentlemen off air, and they are extremely enlightened folks. And Tony, a great guy. Tony, family guy. Can't say enough good things about you. And now you have your own action figure. So,
yes. Thanks for that. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing, guys. I'm going to tell the story of that really quickly. Charlie Perez told me, he goes, I only listen to you and Tony Merkel. And so I kind of I was like, oh yeah, there's that name again. And I was like, and what is that? And he's like, Confessionals. And I was like, okay, yeah. And he goes, and I want to do the PRT people. That's what he originally wanted to do. So I told him, I said, well, why don't we expand it? Instead of doing PRT people, because it's weird because my nephews, they're like, they're not even interested in being action figures. So I was like, okay, because they actually didn't really grow up too much with that. They grew up with video games. And so I grew up with action figures. And so they were just like, whatever, and they thought it was kind of cool, but whatever. So I said, why don't we do my friends, the people that have helped me in this industry, in this business, in this community, whatever you want to call it. Let's, these researchers are legendary researchers and authors, and let's do the cryptids, these creatures that people see. And then later on, when I told him that I'd spoken with you, he goes, oh, Tony Merkel, I loved it. He likes you. And I said, why don't we do one of Tony? Because he likes you. He goes, oh, I love that. So he was all over it. He'd already had a design. He was like, I said, because I have to make sure that you're okay with that. You know what I mean? So, I thought it just makes sense, Tony, and so we got one of you coming and Jason Bland, and your prototype is finished, your first one. But yeah, that was it came out really well though. It really did. I thought I was looking at it going like, wow, then it's got you going like this with the finger over the face, whatever. And I thought, man, that's crazy. But that was all Charlie. He put it together. I trust him now.
That's awesome.
Didn't trust him at first. He said, I'm going to make one of the thing that you saw, which we're calling it the Texas Wolfman, which is what my nephew coined that. I can't even take credit for it. And I said, okay, baloney. Gerhard months ago had said, why don't we get this forensic sketch artist to draw what what people have seen, what witnesses bring us, And I said, that sounds great, but I still can't find one that can do what I saw. And so, the closest we had was me and my buddy that saw this thing. We had a childhood friend that drew a picture years ago of kind of what he, and it looked pretty good. I mean, but it wasn't exact. And so I thought it was kind of cartoonish or whatever, but I'm not dismissing it. And the person that's listening, you're my good friend. Don't, no offense. But I never saw in anything what I saw, any book or any picture, until I saw that sculpture that Charlie made. He said, I can sculpt what you saw. I said, yeah, bullcrap, man. I didn't believe. I just said, okay, that's fine. He's a fan. He wanted to do it. I said, that's fine. He wore my PRT shirt and went to the museum, Lauren Coleman's museum, and took a picture right in front of it, and he had the, gear and everything. So he was real enthusiastic. So I said, okay, you're a big fan. I'm not going to ever be rude to a fan, and so I said, if you so wish to do that, you have my permission to go ahead and try. So he was sending me pictures of this thing as he was doing it, and I was going like, wait a minute, this is actually happening here. When he brought it to me, we met at Spinner's at my friend's restaurant, best turkey legs and crab legs in the city. Let me tell you, we sat there and we ate lunch. When he unveiled it and he showed it to me, I felt like my hands doing this. I was like, and my wife was like, are you okay? And I was looking at what I saw when I was 15. And it was incredible to me. It was absolutely what I saw. And so that right there, gave me faith in Charlie's abilities. I said, okay, Charlie is not playing around. He can actually do this. And so I wouldn't let him do figures of, Lyle Blackburn, Linda Godfrey, all these people, you, Tony, me, Barton Nunley, if he wasn't good at what he did. And now I have several financial backers and some other people in the field who are getting behind the project. Hopefully it'll take off next year. I have to shelve it for right now, not for any other reason other than I have a million things going on. It's nothing to do financially. It has nothing to do with anything. But once we're finished making those figures for Lauren Coleman's museum, then we're going to stop for a while. He is going to be doing some stuff at Christmas time for people. So if you want something for Christmas, hit me up. Maybe I can have him, make something for you for Christmas. Now, these things aren't cheap to make, so they're not going to be cheap to buy, and I'm not going to make any money off of it. I turn it over, whatever. But here's the thing. We will revisit this endeavor. And it could happen, next year. And I'm looking at different places to get these things mass produced. We just got to get the best deal. But yeah, Tony, now you're paranormal in plastic. that's great.
Yeah,
that's what we're calling.
I was like, holy crap! I've made it to the big times now. So I appreciate that, man. And speaking of that, on the figure. Sorry, I had to pull my gum out of my mouth. I was spitting all over myself. I noticed that he put two different logos on. I want to explain that so that people know, because I'm bad at marketing. So here we go. I'm going to try my best. I do have a second podcast called Hammer Lane Legends, and that's the logo that you'll see on the chest of the action figure. And that's a truck driving podcast I started with my dad over a year ago. And it's a similar format as the confessionals, where we talk to people who drive for a living. It doesn't have to be truckers, people who drive Ubers, city buses, and they share their crazy experiences on the road with their jobs. And so, people can check that out if they want. And next week's show is actually, Josh, you and I were talking about dates and stuff. And the reason why I couldn't do next week is because we're doing a crossover show between Hammer Lane Legends and the confessionals, because I had a guy contact me who had Bigfoot stuff happened throughout his life. 3 incidents happening on the property that he grew up on, but he had never seen it. He had heard it. His brother saw it. Great stories, but he didn't see it until he was an adult. And the 2 times he saw it as an adult was when he was throwing tarp on his trailer. He's a truck driver, and this thing came in on the truck at night. And so he shares those stories. So I thought it'd be a good crossover show. So next week's episode is actually going to be a crossover show between Hammerlane Legends and the Confessionals. So if people want to check that out, they're interested in other content, and just maybe they're bored with your show or something, Josh. I don't know, but
well, they might get tired of looking at my ugly mug here.
Yeah. But and I just also want to tell people one, before I go this way, are you telling me this action figure is going to be in Lauren Coleman's museum?
Well, we don't know exactly who all is going to be in there. I just know that Lauren, when I had told him a list of the lineup, he said, yeah, that'd be great, because he wants the entire lineup. And I said, well, I didn't name myself. And he's like, what about you? And I was like, do you want me in there? And he goes, absolutely. I want you there too. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, you and a few other people came after that conversation. So I would have to check with him. But yeah, I mean, it is possible, if that's okay with you.
No, it's fine with me. I was just like, Lauren Coleman.
Yeah, he's the godfather. Yeah, I had a long conversation with him. He's actually in the middle of that. It was weird. It was a synchronicity for me and him too, because he began the conversation telling me, he goes, I've been on the phone all day dealing with property. And I was like, what? That's exactly what I was dealing with, was property situation, that I had bought a piece of property, trying to get house built. It's like, how hard is this? And he's like, dude, that's crazy. Like, we both had the same sort of weird. And then it was like that with me and you too. Like, everything was like, it's just a lot of weird synchronicities. I think people that are like-minded are just all kind of coming together. It's just weird, And then that day, Tony, I'm going to tell you something that happened to me, and the audience probably already knows this, but I was on the phone with Lauren Coleman. I get a phone call from Nick Redfern. And then while I was on the phone with Nick Redfern, I got a call from David Weatherly. How crazy is that? Then Linda Godfrey begins texting me while I'm on the phone with David Weatherly. Then after David Weatherly, I talked to Barton Nunley. And after Barton Nunley, it went on and on. I was like texting Ken Gerhard, because we were in the middle of trying to do something, and I was just like, it was a crazy day. I was just like, this is insane, dude. Like, I talked to like an all-star lineup of people in one day. And my wife goes, that is so weird, like how that played out, And of course I like to talk, and I got on the phone with David and we talked like an hour, and then we're like, whoa, well, it's time, we got to go. But I can talk to David and Nick and Lyle and Ken and Barton and all those people, Linda, and forever. We could just talk. We talk shop. It's just crazy. And my wife's like, I just love to hear you talk, And me and you, Tony, we talked and talked. And folks, let me tell you something. I was doing 4 hours of an 8-hour shift before my guard came in, and me and Tony blew through that. We were still on the phone when I was getting relieved by the guard. I was just like, it was crazy. I was like, I'm still talking to this guy, because we had so much to talk about. We have so much in common. And it's crazy. I'm like, how come I never, corresponded with this guy before? It's just insane, And I still want to maybe talk to Wes. I think I can really contribute to his show too, because I do have a lot of Bigfoot stuff that of course, the guy that I used to deal with was trying hard to give it to him, and my wife has a Bigfoot story that she's never told anybody. She's told me and my team and our friend, one of our friends, and that's it. It's nobody else. And so I was thinking, if Wes wants to, I might be able to get her to do it. She's probably listening at home going, no. But she really needs to tell that story, and I think that she should tell it on my show, and I think Wes's show. I think he'd really like it. It's very interesting. She claims we saw a Bigfoot together. Now, I say this. I saw something. It's like what Lyle said on my show last night. He saw something. She had a better vantage point, much better, and she saw the side profile of this thing. I saw the back. I don't know what it was. And now, I don't like to say I saw a Bigfoot because I don't know. But I did have a couple close calls over the years with what I think may have been Sasquatch, but I never saw it because I was in areas where they were, But yeah, it is weird that you had that. I think you had to run in with a dog man, and I think that that's exactly what was going on over there. And it does change you. It makes you, just being in close proximity to them. I believe now, knowing what I know, that I've had another dogman encounter with a very, I don't know if it was the same creature or not, but it wasn't far away from, maybe 20 miles from the first sighting, but I didn't see it. I just know in my heart, in my mind, I know that it was there, but I didn't see it. And I've always said I'm going to talk about that at some point, but it's not really super exciting other than I had a terrifying night in a building, I was walking around the outside of it, and you know, I'll talk about that someday, but I believe that something was there. I heard it, didn't smell anything. Once again, I didn't smell anything, but it was outside of the building, you know, and so it's just crazy, you know, like these creatures. That's why what gives credence to the thought that they're not completely flesh and blood, because I think that they can find you and stalk you and appear, you know, or disappear at will. I just don't believe that a flesh and blood animal does that. But yeah, it's crazy.
All right. So when I was driving to Kentucky, I was listening to a show that's not paranormal at all. But it was an interview based show, and because it's Halloween, they were just talking about different spooky stories here and there. And the one guy they had in studio kind of was a paranormal guy, and he says that he talked to a lady who was in a school of what do you say? It was a school of mystery, so basically teaching people how to do witchcraft. And she told him that they were learning how to open portals, and they were bringing beasts through. And she said that and he said this, of all the beasts, this is the one he described. He said she told him that they brought through this portal a giant wolf dog walking on two legs, some kind of wolf beast. And I was like, yeah, there's more to this dogman thing I'm about to get involved in. I'm just like, oh,
there's a lot going on with it. I'm gonna tell you that.
Yeah, man. So like, I don't like living my life with regrets, and so I just pursue life to the fullest. And you know, I don't want to put my head down one day and say, I wonder if I would have tried that, how things would have turned out. You know, so we're off in this new adventure. I got a team together, and we're going to be doing some big projects all over the country, and you know, we'll see where it goes. But can I tell the audience about a show real quick?
You do whatever you want, Tony. My casa is your casa.
Okay, I don't want to take up too much of your time here.
No.
But I found this really interesting. I put out a show today, and this doesn't happen often on my show. Like a lot of times, people will say things in comments or an email saying, hey, go to this timestamp on your show. There was an EVP that came through. And I've had it happen. I mean, the one time years ago, I was interviewing a guy, and he actually was telling me about a demon that he saw in the hallway where he was living. And he started describing it. The line goes dead. And I was like, well, that's weird. And so I call him back. And this actually happened in front of a live audience, because back in the day, because I'm not on Patreon anymore, but when I was on Patreon back in the day, the perks I would give people is I would let them watch me do interviews live before they even were broadcast. And so other people saw this too. The line goes dead. We reconnect, and the guy answers. And right after he answers, there's an EVP that comes through, and it sounded like it said, "Get Tony." And so like that happened years ago, but it doesn't happen often. Well, the interview I aired just today, I'm talking to this guy. He starts out his experiences with his Hat Man experience. Now, he never had a paranormal experience in his entire life until he was 20 years old. He opens his eyes up in the middle of the night. His girlfriend's laying next to him, and at the bottom of his bed is a Hat Man standing there holding, and I've never seen this before. I've never heard this before. People talk about the Hat Man and this entity that pops up, but he's always by himself. This dude was not by himself. He was standing at the bottom of the bed, holding a dead crow, and there was a little girl standing on the bottom of his bed, and he was force feeding this dead crow to this girl.
Oh my God!
It was a very spooky, creepy experience. Now he goes through the rest of the show, sharing some of the other things that happened since then, and we were kind of starting to connect some dots. At the end of the show, we're kind of recapping, and I was just going to wind it down, and I'm like, yeah, man, listen, with that experience, I hope I never have something like that happening. That sounds terrifying. And I said, you know, knock on wood. And my desk, I knocked 3 times. And when I knocked 3 times, we got a response back from his line. When I record my interviews, I'm on one channel, they're on the other. So I record their audio separate from mine for editing purposes. So I'm able to isolate lines. And it came through on his line, and there was a knockback 3 times, different rhythm. It was a completely different knock. I played it on the show for people after the interview is over so people can really listen to the knocking. But I legit got a 3 knock back to me instantaneously. And like my knock was like this. And the knock came back like this. Like it was a faster knock. And so it was crazy, but that actually just dropped today. So if people are looking for something that, you know, maybe will give them a little bit of a creeps and stuff, they can check that out. People seem to be enjoying it, but I would just encourage people, if they want to check me out, they can check out the confessionals on any podcast playing app. Yeah, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm going to be changing the name of the YouTube channel here shortly, maybe even this week yet, from the Confessionals to Merkel Media, which is a media company I own. I've had it for several years now. And because I'm doing more than just the Confessionals on YouTube, I'm planning on changing it just to Merkel Media so it encompasses everything I do. And if you want to follow us on social media, the most active I am on social media is actually on Instagram. And please go ahead and follow us on Instagram, the Confessionals. And we're so close to the 10,000 follower mark. We're at like 9,300. Once I hit that 10,000 follower mark, I get to do some cool things with my Instagram stories I don't have access to yet. So please help me get over to the 10,000 mark so I can, you know.
Absolutely, folks, you heard them. And there'll be thousands of people that'll watch the replay of this. So I endorse it. Go in and get that done. Go to Instagram and get it done. Tony Merkel. Real quick, though, if you listen to certain episodes, Tony, it might give you a little insight. I did one called The Haunted Tower, I believe. Anthony, was it called The Haunted Tower? I can't remember if that's the name of it or not. It was The Haunted Tower. Real quick, I'm going to tell you something. I get goosebumps even talking about this. I honestly believe that I saw something similar to the Hat Man, but I saw him, the real man. He had the hat and everything, but it was him. It was the dude, the guy, without being a shadow. And I talk about it on the Haunted Tower. If you want to check that out, Tony, and tell me what you think I was dealing with. I have no idea, but It's funny that you were talking about Crow, because this thing followed me back to my apartment when I was a young man, and was doing things in my apartment to the point where I had a roommate and he moved out. Something was messing with him. Even while I was at work, stuff was going and messing with him. And so at the end of this whole debacle, I wake up and I have a dream that there's bunches of blackbirds all over my house, and I'm shooing them, trying to get them out. And I look over and there's this man with these weird looking teeth. They looked like little sharp looking teeth. And then eventually I wake up and I look and I don't, there's birds in my house. Literally, my front door was open and there were like crows in my house. Not crows, but grackles. It was one of the anyway. You can go to the Haunted Tower and listen to that, and that was it. I was like, I'm done working there. I'm not going to deal with this. I believe that some people are more susceptible to being able to pierce the veil, which I know I am, and so I just was like that. I can't work there, And they gave me another site, which was haunted too, but not as bad as that one. So it's like there was something.
I'm pretty convinced that I'm veil deaf. Like, I mean, my team experienced things. I assemble the team. I get everybody down there. I mean, I'm footing the bill, and they get to have the experiences. I'm pretty experienced deaf, but I'm trying. You can't say I'm not trying.
If you want to do documentaries, that's something I've talked about, and we're actually sitting here talking shop right in front of the guests right here in the audience. It's something that me and a friend of mine have been talking about doing for a while, and he's got capital, and I'm not loaded like him, but I mean, I can help fund something. He's even got his own private plane, he's got that kind of money. But we've been talking now for the last year or two, but then COVID hit and everything went to heck. And me and Ken Gerhardt even had a plan. We had planned a Dogman conference. We were going to do it in Missouri. And now I have a bunch of people on board, like over a dozen people willing to go to this conference and do it, and be it sponsored by PRT. I would invite you, Tony, to come along. I would love to have you there. But we need to get together on some of these documentaries, because If you would like to do a project together, we were thinking about going to Honey Island Swamp. We were thinking about going to Bray Road and, of course, to the LBL. Barton can show us around and take us to the LBL along with the guys from the Cryptid. I say guys, Elijah Henderson, his father passed away recently, but the Cryptid Studies Institute, they're always down there in the LBL. So if you wanted to do something in the LBL, I got people there, Bray Road, that's Linda Godfrey's territory. Dana Holyfield, she's down in the Honey Island Swamp. That I think is some of the most compelling footage ever. We talked about it last night, Harlan Ford's 8mm footage. These are places that we can go and check these things out. I've always wanted to go to the Napa Valley in California too and look for the rebobs, these devil monkeys. But California is, it's hard, like you said earlier, it's hard to go which state we can go to, what the rules are for what state and how much trouble it is, but there's a lot of places that we could go because I have friends all over the country and we could actually access these places and you could do the documentaries with us, as a collaboration. It's something to think about. I mean, I'm really down to do that. Once I get through this busy October that I'm in right now, crazy. Cause like I said yesterday, when I leave here, I got to go check on my guards and then I go home, go to sleep, get up, go to the gym. I got to do a bunch of sets on the bag. If it's workout day, weight day, then I got to do that. Then I got to get on the phone, do a bunch of calls, and I just wash, rinse, repeat. I'm recording a Wendigo episode tomorrow with Ryan Tremblay. I'm sure everybody's going to be excited about that. Ryan is definitely a guy to talk about the Wendigos. You should get Ryan on your show, and Nick Valente. They've both seen Dogman, two different kinds.
What's Ryan's last name?
Ryan Tremblay. He's I've done Whisper to a Scream podcast with him. We did the Gugwi and the Genosqua. And then we did Goatman Origins, which I was able to transfer over to my show too, because the audio wasn't real good on his shows. But if you interview Nick Valente, he's from the NADP, the North American Dogman Project. And recently, my friend D.A. Roberts, who I endorsed, is now the head of the Midwest region. So that opens Wisconsin back up to reports and things. And Nick Valente's actually seen a Dogman. And so has Ryan. They were two different kinds. The one Ryan saw was very hyena-like, and he's talked about it on my show. So is Nick Valente. But if you would like me to, I could get you in touch with them, and they could also bring their reports to you and come on your show and give you more material. Both of them had pretty, creepy encounters, very similar to mine. But anyways, that's all the time we got tonight, folks. And thank you for tuning in. And thank you so much for Tony for coming on. And we talk, because we always do. We just talk forever. And it's awesome. I love talking to you, man. And it's an honor that you, and I appreciate you reaching out to me and talking to me. And I really was like, wow, Tony Merkel, keep hearing your name. So I was like, obviously it was time to work together. So I'm going to let you run, Tony, and we will talk again, I'm sure, before we record, which will be, the show will be released on the 26th.
Right.
It's one of about a half dozen shows I'm doing for October. Now, Tony, here's the other thing, too, and it's not like you should be like, oh, I'm gracing you with my presence because you're like, you're who you are. But I don't do many interviews. But this month, my nephew said, look, he's kind of my de facto manager. It was like my wife too. They were both kind of pressuring me. They're like, look, you need to go start doing more interviews. It's good for the show. It's good for the promotion of it, which I was like, I really don't care. I'm not going to do it unless I like the person and I'm friendly, have a good rapport with them. I'm not just going to agree to something. So you and Jason Bland were two on the top people, and then Paul Sinclair. And I agreed to do that. And then I tentatively agreed to do about 3 others. I don't 100% know yet. I'm pretty sure one of them I will. But you 3 in particular, because I got to know you and I thought these guys they have integrity and they're smart and they're, it's not going to be one of those, Saturday Night Live skits with Chris Farley. What was it like seeing Dogman? Because I know you don't talk like that. And so it's very awkward. I mean, I did an interview that I didn't allow to be released because it was sort of like that. And I thought that I was being messed with or something. And I'm like, what is this? Is this really happening? This is really happening. And I thought this person doesn't really care. And then they were like chewing in my ear and I was like, yeah, 2 or 3 bad experiences, and I'm like, and then they could say whatever, who knows what they'll edit, and so I told my wife and my nephew, my brother, I said, it has to be someone that I trust. So it is special for me because I trust you. And I do very few interviews because I have so much going on with my own show. I'm sure you do too, but it's like, it's got to be people you're comfortable with. And I'm comfortable with you. So
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, chatting with you and, just talking to you the way I talk to everybody else, I don't take anything out of my interviews with people. It's like I don't do it anymore so much, but back in the day, I used to tell people, listen, if you say it, it's going on the show unless you tell me afterwards to take something out. But if you say it, it's going on the show. I'm just telling you now. Don't think you're going to take it out. It's going on the show. So make sure you bring the game that you actually want to present to people because I want it to be table talk. I want it to be just real conversation. So, I mean, sometimes people say a name that they like, oh, I shouldn't have said that person's name. I can take it out. But, I just let it roll.
That's the way to be. I mean, to be legit because I was, a party to a show and you know what I'm talking about. And it was very much editing and just not telling the whole story. You couldn't give the whole story, and we talked about that, and it was like, that's not what I'm about. We have to tell the entire story, the story in its entirety. You're not doing people justice, so Tony, it was good talking to you, and I'm gonna run and then say a couple things to my listeners, and definitely hit me up, send me your shirt size so I can give you a PRT shirt.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, and a hat, whatever you want, just whatever you want, dude, and let me know what your shirt size is. I would love to give you that. So,
you want my boxer sizes too?
Well, the PRT hoodie is getting cooler. They're really comfortable, and they actually fit a little bit. Like you get a little bigger one. I like them to be a little bit loose, but it's up to you if you want a hoodie, because it's getting cooler. So, and if they're in Pennsylvania, it gets cold.
It
you might
does
decide
get
to go to
cold.
the Poconos one day and just see, so you might need a hoodie. So let me know, man. And Tony, it was good talking to you. I'm going to let you go, okay?
All right, brother. Take care. Thanks a lot.
You too, man. I'll see you.
See you.
So that was Tony Merkel. Great guy. Love talking to Tony. Tony is me and him, since we met, we've been talking, and it's just he's an easy guy to talk to. Got a lot going on this October. Now, everybody be patient because I have to do giveaways, and I have to get everything mailed off. Now, the mail didn't run yesterday, and I had so much going on preparing for this show, and I'm going to have so much going on preparing for tomorrow's recording anyway. And then Thursday, I'll be off from recording or doing anything. And then Friday, I record with Paul Wallace. And then I record again on Saturday. Or I think it's Saturday. Anyways, folks, I'm doing a lot of work, and I'm working a job, and I'm going to the gym and doing what I got to do. I am a very busy person, but people are always like, hey, it's very busy. You're very busy, and I'm sorry for bothering you, but if you want to reach out to my wife, feel free to, she'll give me the information, and I'll do the best I can to get to you. I want to make the best quality product I can, and I want to keep it as affordable, whatever. But donations do help because this takes up an inordinately large amount of my time. And in order to justify continuing to do it, I don't care what Mr. Pyrus says on his whatever. This takes money and effort to do this. So it's not easy. And it's got to be worth it to do it. I mean, and we're having to pay for a lot of stuff, and so we do need people to get on board, with the Patreon and help out a little bit because it makes the costs less of a burden for me. Building a house. I'm about to start building a house in November. And so we're getting everything squared away. We kind of hit a snag. And so hopefully we're going to get back on track. And now I have to fix the roof. So there's that. That's wonderful. That the roof being destroyed is, that's awesome. So I wanted to read off the names of some people who won the giveaways. We did the one for Barton Nunley, and Chad Schumpert. You're one of them. You won. What you won was an autographed book, and of course I always throw extras in there, so you'll get that. And let's see here, James Watson, you won too. What you won was the last copy I have of Barton Nunley's Hunt the Dog Man DVD. It's got more in there than what you can get on Amazon. It's the last copy. There's only 5 copies, I think, in existence, 5 or 6. And so you won that. That's what you're going to win. That's your prize. And Nathan Linville from the Tiny Humanoids show with your comment. Because what you do to win, folks, is you go to the show and you make a comment. When we drop the link to this show, to every show we do, no matter what it is, we drop it on the Paranormal Round Table group page. You go and you leave a comment on that page, okay? You will automatically be entered to win the contest. But you have to be a part of the group to do it. We also do it in Paranormal Lounge, okay? We don't do it in Paranormal Encounters because Tony's too lazy to even deal with it. But he works a lot, so poor kid. I'm just messing with him. So anyway, Mark Kirby, you also won. Mark Kirby, you won Barton Nunley's action figure. I'm going to be mailing that off to Barton when Ken Gerhard mails me back. Or Ken Gerhard, I'm going to mail my book to Ken Gerhard to be signed, the one that I sold. And then Ken's book is going to be signed, and then he's going to ship it to Barton. Well, I'm going to ship this action figure, and it's going to go to Barton. He's going to sign it, send it back to me. Then I'm going to send it to you. So it might take a little while, Mark, but you'll get your action figure, signed action figure. Okay? The Barton Nunley. So anyway, that's the winners of the giveaways. I wanted to go ahead and announce that. I thought it'd be appropriate to do that, and so people are dropping out of the chat because they're tired and they're ready to go to sleep, and they're like, "I'm tired. I got to work tomorrow." And blah blah blah. I work all the time, never stop. You got to have ambition and the will to feed it. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Everybody from PRT, Paranormal Round Table, for Tony Merkel, Paul Wallace, my guest tonight. Thank you for listening. I'm sorry that some people got so hurt by the truth, but it is what it is. That's it. Yes, I agree with you, Tanya Wall. Yeah. I really feel that whoever rented the space, yeah. But me and my partner, he's actually my mortgage broker, who owns this spot here, and he's like, man, it's really not our responsibility, but we're gonna have to do it, and then try to make them pay us back. Which I know how that goes, whatever. What about us moderators? Scorpion, being a moderator is its own reward. I'm messing with you. Actually, I think James Estrada and Ken Mullins, there are 2 new moderators, and Ryan Tremblay, and you, Scorpion. You've all been given something by me, so whatever. That's what you get. You get good stuff. And anyways, I think James, I told you I'd throw in something for you because I believe you're a Patreon guy, so I owe you like a hat. I'll throw you a shirt. When I get home tonight, I'm going to make an order, folks. More PRT stickers. I'm going to order more PRT stickers. And then I'm going to order more PRT shirts and sizes and things because we're almost completely out of mediums. So if you're a medium, we don't have it. We have very few larges now, I think, too. So we got to get it. We got to get it done. So all you Patreon members who've been more than 3 months with us, send me your information so I can get this done because I'm eager to give you stuff. I want to do it. I enjoy doing it. I love to give. I've always been a giver. At Christmas time, I go crazy and give away things and whatever. And this coming Christmas, we're going to do that too. We're going to give away some amazing things for Christmas. So stick with us, guys, because here, it's always a nightclub in the background. It's always a nightclub in the comments section. You're entertained. Get your scare on. Get your scare on. Because here at PRT, we don't shun you because I'm not a therapist. I'm a teacher / educator. No. I'm just here to entertain you, and I hope you had a good time. That's all I want. All right, good night.